All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are here and we are live on Monday, July 15th, 8:45 a.m. This was one of the most shocking weekends that I've experienced as an American citizen. I imagine that plenty of other people have also felt the same over this weekend. And so there's a lot to discuss, a lot to break down, and a lot to kind of analyze in the context of what's going on, and not only from a domestic perspective in America, but also what this means for the markets, obviously, and what this means from a geopolitical perspective. Before we get into the markets and everything that's going on, we're probably going to take a good 10-15 minutes to just kind of discuss what happened over the weekend. I think it's important to kind of analyze that stuff and just analyze it from a purely objective standpoint, even though people will perceive it's political. And if it is what it is, then that's fine. But I think it's important to break this down, analyze what the hell happened. Definitely as a community, I would like to know where you guys were when you saw an assassination attempt on former President Trump. And then we can sort of break down what the implications are for the market and for the broader political atmosphere that we are currently in. So I think I'll start off by saying my statement on the attack, and I'm sure some people saw my tweets over the weekend where I kind of gave my thoughts, is that unequivocally condemn the person who tried to assassinate the former president. As I grow older, I become more aware that the only reason America is because we have freedoms. And there are people that fought and died for these freedoms. What are those freedoms? At its basic level, the freedom to speak, the freedom to have discourse, the freedom to interact with someone who disagrees with you, but not kill each other just because you disagree. Whereas in other countries in the world, if you don't agree with the mainstream narrative, you are abolished from society, essentially. And so that means a uniquely American take is that we use discourse to resolve the conflicts that we have. And when we resort to violence, that not only creates an atmosphere where violence seems like it's normalized and acceptable, but it leads to the end of democracy. Because if you can take out someone that you disagree with politically, it means that doesn't allow the intersubjective exchange of politics to discursively legitimize the nature of the political atmosphere in America to exist. And that has existed for the past 250 years. It's been the greatest experiment in the world, and that experiment should not end simply because you disagree with a political candidate. There's a lot of angles to what has happened over the weekend. I think this picture is the most chilling, and this is where I want to focus my analysis, and then we'll get into all the other stuff that's been going on. This picture right here has sent chills down my spine for the majority of the past 24 hours. And it is a picture of Trump who, in the first graphic, it's of him just talking to the crowd. The bullet flies. 0.3 seconds later, he turns because he's looking at a graphic. He's actually talking about illegal immigration, and he's looking at a chart. I believe that's on like a billboard. That turn in those 0.3 seconds allows the bullet to pierce his ear. We got a statement from the president on Friday night or Saturday night that it pierced through his right ear. And that's where you saw the blood and some of the damage there. But 0.3 seconds of a turn, millimeters of a turn that doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen, we would have witnessed a headshot on the former president of the United States of America, Donald Trump. We would have seen him be shot and killed within seconds. That video would have been so graphic, mainstream television networks would not have been able to play that video because, I mean, you're barely allowed to show violence on TV. You cannot show someone getting their head blown off, which is what would have happened. There would have been a headshot. He would have been dead immediately, and we would have had an assassination happen in the United States on a political candidate. The markets would be down, in my opinion, minimum 5%, probably more than 5%. Bitcoin probably would have tanked to below 50,000. And the instability that would have started in terms of just riots in the street, because there is no way the 80 million people that voted for Trump would have believed that this was not an inside job. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. We'll probably explore a couple of them because I do think it gives some credence to kind of what's going on. But there is an argument that, or at least there will be the perceived argument that the state did not want him in power and they got rid of him. And you can't really blame Americans for feeling that because that's what happened to JFK. And we all know that's what happened. So from that perspective, it would have been hell on earth. I mean, it would have been very, very bad. And thankfully, that did not happen, not only for, obviously, Trump's life, but for the state of American politics, if that were to go down. This is the video that I want to show from that, just to give people a lot of context in terms of what happened. If you really slow it down, you're going to see this is a 30-second video. It's going to show in normal and then in 0.5 how close this bullet is really to assassinating the president.
We see something that said, take a look at what happened. We see something that said, take a look at what happened.
There's the turn. That's when he gets hit. I'll turn the volume off. But right there, you can see he's going to do the head tilt right there. And that's when the shooter shoots. And if he had not done that head tilt, he would be dead. He would it would have been a headshot. We would have witnessed the headshot on the president of the United States. And so from that perspective, to me, this is what gives most of the context for kind of how close and how lucky we were as an American public for President Trump to not get shot and killed. I think some of the stuff I've seen over the weekend has been pretty despicable in terms of people that have said not only this was staged, which, I mean, look, I personally do not think it was staged. Could there be conspiracies for how the CIA or the Secret Service let this happen? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to explore there. But the idea that the Trump campaign staged this themselves to be able to be seen as the victim here, I think is asinine, especially because someone was murdered. I mean, like, there's just so many reasons why I don't think that would be the case. Also, I mean, that head tilt, if anything, shows me this was more luck than stage. I mean, for Trump to stage that he had to tilt his head right at that moment to just have, you know, the piercing of his ear versus a bullet through his head, I think is hard to believe. The other people around some of the political atmospheres that have said they are happy that this happened and they would have wished Trump to die. You know, it's tough. The problem with that argument and that line of thinking is that it destroys the fundamental nature of democracy. It destroys the concept of discourse that we have inside of democracy. You can advocate for not liking a particular political candidate. When it gets to the point where you are saying, I wish that person did not exist, that sounds like you want to exterminate certain types of people in the population, which not only can lead to horrible violence, but it can lead to fascism. It can lead to a type of environment that we don't want to have because we've seen the ramifications of fascism historically in the past. And so the ideology, for most part, Democrats and you know, Congress has said that they unequivocally condemn this. Biden came out with a good statement and said, like, hey, this is not acceptable. But the idea that some people are actually walking around saying, oh, if I was the shooter, I would have had better aim. It's pretty despicable. It's a bad source of politics we're having right now. And it's one of those things that makes you realize that not everyone in America, uniquely in America, understands what makes America America, which is that we can disagree without having to kill each other. And so in conclusion here, this was one of the worst days in American history. If Trump had died, it would have gone down as one of the biggest political events of our lifetime. And it would be etched in the history books if Trump had actually been killed. I found a picture over the weekend I thought that was really important as well. Here's a child, probably no older than 10 years old, and he's wearing a Trump hat, a Trump wig, and he's watching the president from the back duck after being potentially almost killed, but shot in the ear. And so I think that kids' political upbringings are going to be vastly impacted by this. Not to mention, there was a gentleman named Corey who ended up taking one of the stray bullets when Trump was ducking down and the shooter kept shooting. And he had a wife, he had kids. His GoFundMe, I'll put it in the chat in a second, they raised about $1 million over the past weekend to support those wife and kids. And, like, you know, all he did was exercising his political speech and showing up at a rally. And now he died. So it really just is one of the saddest days in American history. Where was I? I would like to know where you guys were in the chat. I was walking. I was taking a walk outside. It was like hot outside. I was walking. I was just sweating. I was just thinking about life. I came inside. My sister had YouTube open. I looked at her laptop and I see this headline, Trump shot. And I'm like, oh my God. I found out 20 minutes after it happened. So I was right into it when it went down. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe someone actually tried to assassinate the president. But it happened. And I would love to know where you guys were over the weekend. I guess the final point on this is that we're about to talk about what it means for markets and analyze it from that perspective, but it was just one of the most insane things. I think in America, we have to get to the point where we don't disagree with each other to the point where we want to kill each other. Here's how I'll end it off on. I got an email actually over the weekend. I posted this on Twitter from a subscriber. Maybe that subscriber here is in the chat. And that subscriber said, Amit, I really don't like when you talk about politics. It seems like you're becoming a MAGA Trump supporter. Please stop discussing this stuff. Otherwise, I'm going to stop watching your streams. Now, from my perspective, I'm like, well, wait a second. I haven't endorsed a single political candidate. Have we been harping on Joe Biden over the past couple of weeks? Yeah, but that's not because we're trying to be political here. I'm not, screw Biden, yes, Trump, all that stuff. And even if I was, that's not the type of bias I want to, show on the streams. And I made that very clear since we started political coverage. The reason we've been harping on Biden a little bit is because this is a man who cannot talk. And if we can't agree on the basics that he cannot speak, then like, okay, that's fine. Like we just have a disagreement. But I think all rational people can be like, this guy probably is not fit at this stage of his life to be having this discussion. And it's not just me, it's the entire Democratic Party that has turned against him, which should lean something into signaling what the atmosphere is like against Joe Biden. I think the email that I got over the weekend is the exact problem with what we're having in the United States. Someone cannot handle someone like me, who's not Ben Shapiro, who's like super right wing or like super like yes Trump, or just giving an analysis of the current president and his demented state. That is so hard to listen to. You're so ideologically ingrained with your political belief because you're narcissistic enough to believe that your political belief is better than everyone else's. Whereas that's antithetical to America. America is based on the belief that whether you're from Alabama or from Los Angeles, your vote matters because you have the sovereignty of the individual, which is the sort of the founding principle of the United States, that you matter and your individual right to vote and think does matter, whether you're from Alabama, from Texas, from California, from New York. So if you can't get out of that headset and you have to think, oh, I can't consume this content because it even kind of leans toward a side that I disagree with, that is where we have led. That is where our culture has led to a point where we are not able to have discussions with people across the other side. And by the way, you know why I feel like I can say this? I was that person in 2015. I've told you time and time again, I was the guy who was the Bernie Sanders card carrying communist who felt, Trump was the most evil person in the world, blah, 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 like all the talking points. And I evolved, right? Not evolved to the point where I'm like, oh my God, yes, the Bernie Sanders and the communists are all horrible. But just like I can see the other side. And I've come to a sort of moderate opinion on some of these arguments are good. Some of these arguments are good. Some of those arguments are crazy. Some of those arguments are crazy. And I can sort of conceptualize and rationalize this without saying Donald Trump should be dead because he's the most evil person in the world. Whereas, unfortunately, some of the people that I went to high school with, I was looking at their Instagram stories and they were like, oh, I like, why did he miss? Why did the shooter miss? Couldn't we get a shooter with better aim? And it's like those people are the problem with society. It's not the people that I thought were the problem with society. And I think a lot of us need to grow up. So those are my thoughts on what happened. Now it's time to impact what it means on markets. Thank you everybody for listening to this. And I hope everyone is doing okay after what we saw on the weekend. We're going to have to analyze what this means for the Republican National Convention, what this means for Trump doing a rally again in public, what this means for the Secret Service, what this means for Biden doing rallies. I mean, a lot of different implications are going to happen over the coming weeks that we'll figure out. But it's good to see that Trump is fine and he's going to be at the Republican National Convention, I think in maybe not today, but tomorrow or Wednesday. He's already in Wisconsin. And so he'll be giving his speech and he'll continue to run for presidency. And hopefully we will have an actual presidency between Trump and Biden in a democratic process, and the voters will decide who they ultimately want to vote for. Okay, cool. So let's get into the context of the markets. I know there's a lot of comments here, seeing how people are talking about where they were, what they were seeing over the weekend. It was tough. It was really tough. I ran upstairs, by the way, and I told my parents, and my parents couldn't believe it. Like my parents just were stunned. I mean, my parents are, 55, 60 years old. They cannot believe in their lifetime this has never happened in America. They immigrated from India. They came to America because this shit doesn't happen in America. So for them seeing it, it was just rough. It was a tough situation for everyone to sort of analyze. Okay, markets. Let's get into it. So I think we'll start off with what this means for the markets. Obviously, the markets want Trump to win. It's pretty obvious by now. And the reason the markets want Trump to win is for a variety of reasons. We'll just sum it up short with lower taxes. That's like a TLDR if you need to know why the markets want Trump to win. DJT, the stock, is up 50% in the pre-market. A couple things on DJT. I am not in this trade. If you do get into this trade, which, look, I think the trade can go very well if Trump wins because the sitting president has his company, public. I mean, I would assume people would buy it. I also think people want to buy it just to support Trump. The thing about the shooting is that it makes people more emboldened to support their president. If you were independent, I cannot imagine how you as an independent, I mean, there's a way you still vote Biden, but there's a lot of ways I think independents find themselves feeling more patriotic and wanting to vote for the guy that the system theoretically does not want to exist, which is Trump. I mean, the photo op itself, we didn't talk about the photo, but I put it as a thumbnail because this is one of the most iconic pictures in American history. Trump decides that after he takes a shot that he wants to signal to the crowd that you should keep fighting and keep trying to succeed, as you can see right there. right where he gets shot. He wants to sort of signal that he can keep fighting. So right there, I thought that was a genius marketing move. I thought Trump at that context understood the value of that moment. But I also think outside of just marketing, he wanted to signal to the American public, they're trying to take me out, but they're not going to take me out because we have to keep fighting. And so for the Republican base, if you are a Trumper, that not only motivated you, it inspired you, but it's definitely getting your ass to the ballot box. And then if you're an independent, you probably saw that versus, kind of the, monotone explanations by Joe Biden on why America is so great. You start to think, hey, maybe I go down the Trump route. So I do think DJT can get a bump just off people wanting to buy the stock. The problem is by September 24th, Trump can liquidate the 60% of the stock that he owns. Market cap's at $6 billion. He can liquidate about $3.5 billion by the end of the year. Will he do that? I don't know. He has every right to do that if he wants to do that, given what's written in the S1. So if you get into this trade, you just have to remember that this can go against you if Trump decides to sell. And it's one thing to remember, but people are not buying it on the fundamentals. 3 million in revenue, 6 billion market cap. People are obviously buying it because they want to support Donald Trump. So that's what we have in the context of DJT. Now, Bitcoin is the next big story. Bitcoin is absolutely surging right here. 62,634. We were at 63,000. For some context, last week or July 4th, so basically 2 weeks ago, we were at 53,800. That was the dip. And it's pretty incredible to the point, that we got to 53,800. The German government sold most of their Bitcoin at 55,000. And as you can see right here, Bitcoin now at 62. We've obviously had some momentum from that 53, 55 range. Why is that happening? Trump is still scheduled to speak at the Bitcoin conference. That Bitcoin conference is going to be, I believe, July 25th at Nashville. Markets are pricing in a Trump presidency on all of the online betting sites. Trump's presidency has gone up. Trump is obviously good for Bitcoin, just in the sheer fact that he is supportive of a currency like Bitcoin. He doesn't want to establish any central digital dollar currency in the United States. So that is something that markets like. That is something that obviously Bitcoin likes. And if Trump wins, that would probably help Bitcoin. On top of that, Bitcoin needed a catalyst besides just more liquidity, especially because we haven't got that liquidity yet, given interest rates have not fully come down, which they probably will in September, but not yet. So one of the biggest catalysts could be that you get a pro-crypto president, and the odds of him winning based on everything that has happened over the weekend have gone up. Now, a bunch of pollsters have said this is likely not going to be the landslide victory Ronald Reagan had back in the 1980s after he got shot. Ronald Reagan won every state except Minnesota. And so a landslide type of victory, some pollsters are saying probably isn't going to happen because the country is too divided, but there might be enough political sort of prestige applied on Trump, given what he went through over the weekend and, why people believe that he's going to be able to continue to keep doing what he has to do. So from that perspective, Bitcoin's up. And then the broader market, this is incredibly interesting. I mean, if you just look at the S&P 500 right now in the QQQ, we're up again in the pre-market. So take a look at this. S&P 561 up 0.32%. IWM, small caps, 214. S&P and IWM are up. On top of that, NVIDIA is also green by about 1.6%. So we're seeing a bit of an everything rally here. We'll talk about Tesla in a bit. Tesla's also up 4%. It was almost touching 270 in the overnight markets on Robinhood. And there's a Trump correlation with Tesla as well. But IWM, S&P, and NVIDIA all doing well. Now let's read what Tom Lee put out over the weekend to give us a little bit more context about why this is kind of playing out. So Tom Lee said that the inflation reading that we got from the CPI was beyond expectations in terms of what we needed for inflation to come down. So Tom Lee said, whoa, that was his first response. The services ex-shelter component of CPI slowed to 4.92%. Now, this is important. His argument is inflationistas, it's an interesting word, have argued that wages will keep services inflation high. But this number contradicts that. This is services ex-shelter. Adding that wage growth is already visibly slowing, so I don't see services driving a second wave of inflation. And then we saw what Jay Powell said when he was testifying. He said the latest data show that labor market conditions have now cooled considerably from where they were 2 years ago. Powell told senators. He also said reducing policy restraint too little or too late could unduly weaken economic activity and unemployment, basically saying if we don't cut, we could cause a recession, which is something that we don't need to do. Lee said that overall, this is positive for equities. In our view, as this mitigates recession risk. In our view, inflation has been falling like a rock, and the stubborn shelter and auto insurance have propped up CPI. But unfortunately, a data-dependent Fed is also thus keeping interest rates unnecessarily high. So the Fed chair acknowledging two-sided risks is positive for stocks generally. Basically, the Fed acknowledging, hey, we understand there's a risk to the upside and the downside. We're not just only saying we have to kill inflation because we realize that inflation is coming down, which is obviously a very good thing in the context of the Fed. Now, here's what Fed President Goolsbee said this morning. Interest rate cuts are soon warranted. June inflation reading makes me more confident that price pressures are easing. Concerned that holding rates steady would contribute to an unduly restrictive policy stance. I mean, I think they're basically screaming at us that we're going to have a September cut. We have tightened a lot since holding at this rate. It doesn't make sense to continue with a tighter rate stance because the economy is no longer in danger of overheating. I mean, dude, I feel like we're getting that September cut. And as a result of that, the market is obviously pricing in that September cut. And that's why IWM, the small caps, are surging along with the S&P. Now, the question becomes, do we see that sort of segment rotation outside of large caps into small caps? Or do we really get a rally where everything just goes up and small caps go to the moon, NVIDIA still goes to the moon, and the money that fuels that everything rally has to come out of, I think, out of value names, the Verizons of the world, or it comes out of money market funds, because you're going to need the money to come from somewhere. So either people sell their Apple to buy small caps, which Apple's up right now. We'll talk about them in a second. They're up all-time high in the pre-market is 235, or they find money from external assets and they plunge it into the market. And that's where the euphoria and the bubblish stuff might really start. But I think we have a ways to go until we get there. So overall, I mean, markets enjoying basically what happened over the weekend, not because they wanted that to happen, but they're happy that Trump is alive. They believe that the event emboldens Trump to probably become the president. I mean, it's also, I mean, just as an American citizen, I'm thinking about all the independents we have in the country and people that I've talked to that are friends that are on, they're not sure who they're going to vote for. It's tough, dude. I mean, like a lot of people saw, I mean, just like, let's talk about the TikTokification of this whole situation, the meme-ish sort of Gen Z response to Trump. They all think he's a gangster. They all think he looks cool as shit. The song Many Men by 50 Cent, some of you guys may know that if you're into hip hop, the song starts off with many men wish death upon me. And it's a song about a rapper who got shot 9 times, right? So like it's the 50 Cent performed that song in Boston the night Trump got shot when he was at a concert. And he was kind of giving his ode to Trump. So it's like there's I mean, there's just so much sort of an argument that even the youth that doesn't give a shit about politics, they're like, well, Trump looks kind of cool. I mean, when you take a bullet and you survive, you kind of look cool. And so the argument is that there's going to be a lot more people finding a way to get excited to end up voting for Donald Trump. So if that does happen, markets feel that is going to be good. Maybe that's not good. Maybe there's going to be too much inflation. Maybe there's going to be all these issues if Trump wins. But at least going into the election, that's what they're pricing in. And that's what the market seems to be liking, at least right now in the pre-markets. If Trump had been assassinated, God forbid that ever happened, I think we would be having a market today. The S&P would probably be closer to 520. Bitcoin, I think objectively would be below 50,000. All of our favorite stocks would have taken a nasty beating. Maybe they would have recovered. I mean, like, and they probably would recover, but like in the short term, things would have been bad. And then if they put up like DeSantis against Biden and the market price that Biden would definitely beat him, or that would hurt the market. But also if people started rioting and looting, I mean, we saw what happened with the BLM riots back in 2020. This would be at a different level because this is a presidential candidate that obviously has a ton of influence in the country. If he had been assassinated, we would have riots in the street. I would be afraid to go outside. I wouldn't be able to imagine what people would do and how they would act. And in a democracy, that does happen. A lot of times people start to act in horrible ways if horrible things happen. So I think we should all just be very, very lucky that he turned his head at the right moment and that didn't happen. Because if it did, things would get pretty tough. But at least that's what the market is pricing in right now. And that's why the market seems to be excited by this Trump victory for today. Thomas says, America's politics is so childish. That stuff should not matter. It only matters because U.S. politics is more theatrical than anything else. Well, speaking to the theatrical nature of the United States, and I don't disagree with you, but part of the problem is that both sides have sort of engaged in this really ruthless rhetoric. I mean, the left has compared Trump to Hitler, and the right has done also horrible things, right? But the idea that we have elevated politics to the point, well, I mean, I think someone had the best take on Twitter from, I think David Sachs actually had a really good take on this. Like, if you say Trump is Hitler, wouldn't you want him to be dead? And so the sort of the entire Democratic establishment that has ever compared him to the leader of Nazi Germany, for them to say, oh, we wish he a speedy recovery. It's like, you wouldn't wish Hitler a speedy recovery. So you obviously don't believe Trump's Hitler. So if that's the case, then the question becomes, why are you calling him that? And it goes down to marketing and like the nature of political discourse, which is why I think everyone has to kind of change how we talk about politics, because when you elevate it to that level of violence, obviously, people can act on that, and that's not the right thing. 10-year, let's look at some of the macros. So 10-year is slightly up right now, 4.226. Oil has come down a little bit. We saw that 10-year have a sharp decline from 4.5 down to 4.2 once we got that CPI data. Oil right here also coming down on the day, 82.14. Again, looking like inflation is starting to come under control as shelter comes down and auto insurance comes down as well. Which is very important. Dan Ives right here said, we believe second quarter earnings are going to be spectacular. It'll be a major positive catalyst for the tech sector, and expect tech stocks to be up another 15% for the year, adding to the robust tech gains in first half 2024 as the AI revolution spending wave takes center stage and propels big tech higher during earnings season. Earnings this week, we are going to officially hear from Netflix. That is going to be the first big tech name. So Netflix earnings is going to be very important. If you had to ask me right now, not the most bullish on Netflix for two reasons. Number one, their stock is up 50% year to date. I personally don't think the street's going to be willing to give them that much more juice. So I think Netflix actually starts off earnings probably not in the best way. Their PE on Netflix, 37. The growth is, I think, single digits. Growth is not incredible. So I don't know if the street's willing to expand that multiple. The other thing about Netflix is they're not going to be reporting their subscriber numbers. And so I think there's going to be the first quarter where the street has to figure out how to value Netflix without exactly knowing how many subscribers they have. And so Netflix, I don't know if we start off tech earnings in an amazing way. If they do, start us off with a bang, that'd be awesome. If not, then we're going to have to wait till next week where all the other big techs officially start reporting. Goldman Sachs, we got Goldman Sachs earnings. So Goldman Sachs actually did an incredible job. EPS 862 versus 834, higher fixed income and smaller than expected loan loss provisions, which was really good for the top and the bottom line. Revenue, $12.73 billion versus $12.46 billion. Second quarter profits jumped 150% from a year earlier. Revenue growth was 17% year over year. Goldman, JP Morgan, and Citigroup had phenomenal earnings. The only bank so far that had crappy earnings was Wells Fargo, and that's because their net interest income was down 9% year over year. So Wells Fargo, not the best earnings, but I don't think Wells Fargo is emblematic of the broader banking sector. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and we'll hear from Bank of America, I think this week or next week, are emblematic of that. And so as long as we don't see a trend in banks not having good earnings, which Wells Fargo is the only one that really didn't have the best earnings, then I think we're going to be good. And that's good if the banks do well, because that means the broader market hopefully does well. Bank of America is actually going to be tomorrow. So we'll hear from Bank of America, PNC, Morgan Stanley, and the United Health Group tomorrow and see what's going on. So that's another positive catalyst for the markets. I mean, Goldman Sachs showing that activity is good. The only thing that was down for Goldman Sachs was investment banking fees. They were down because they raised their fees, but not as much as JP Morgan and Citigroup. So compared to those guys, they were down comparably. But outside of that, 17% revenue growth is what you expect from a bank where the market's surging. There's more capital market activity going on. Their loan loss provisions are coming down as well, so they're managing the risk. So I thought overall Goldman Sachs had a really good quarter. Their stock not up that much because it's already up 24% year to date. So it's up 0.44%. At one point it was up 2%, but they've already had a really good year. So market's not giving them that much more momentum on the stock right now. Bitcoin, 62,800, DJT up 53%. This is going to be very interesting to see how this one opens up in 20 minutes. I would imagine it sells off a little bit because people are going to take some profits. People who probably bought in the high 50s or 60s are going to use this as exit liquidity. But I could also imagine the anger that is emboldened Trump's base and independents. They're going to start buying up this stock. We know that Susquehanna founder Jeffrey Yass owns a decent amount of DJT, and this is kind of his way of propping up the stock because he wants Trump to win. If Trump wins, then he's probably not going to ban TikTok. Jeffrey Yass has a $22 billion stake in TikTok, so that's $22 billion worth of capital that he really doesn't want to lose if Biden has a second term. So there are some special interests that obviously want DJT to stay elevated, but I also think the American public is going to think this is a way to contribute to Trump without like giving him a campaign donation. And so we could see this surge higher. Tesla. Let's talk about Tesla. 257 on Tesla. So the interesting thing about Tesla is there's no reason for Tesla to be up outside of Tesla's relationship with Trump. Now, what do I mean by that? Elon Musk officially endorsed Tesla endorsed Trump. I would imagine he's always endorsed Tesla. He endorsed Trump over the weekend. And we already knew this was happening because on Wednesday, there was a Wall Street Journal article that came out that said Elon was starting to donate to a super PAC for Trump. But once the attack happened over the weekend, he officially said, I fully endorse Donald Trump. So he said this right here: I fully endorse Donald Trump and I pray for his rapid recovery. That tweet got 198 million views, 404,000 retweets. I think this has to be in one of the most viral tweets of all time category. 2.2 million likes. Obviously, people were pretty, at least, the Trump side of the base were happy that he fully came out with his endorsement. Now, why does this matter for Tesla stock? Tesla has not confirmed or denied the 8.8 robotaxi delay, and that's what created the overhang on the stock last week, but then the stock kind of resurged going into Friday. Dan Ives came out on Friday and said, if Trump wins, it'll be bad for Rivian and Lucid and broader EVs because we might have the tax subsidy go away. But Elon's relationship with Trump actually makes it beneficial for Trump. Elon uniquely understands Trump. Trump has started to develop a good relationship with Elon. That's why that's why Elon endorsed them. And if the other EVs struggle, Tesla's left to get market share. Like if Rivian can't produce can't produce positive gross margins by the end of 2025, they're done. They're like $5 billion from Volkswagen is not going to save them. But Tesla can withstand that. So in the context of the last man standing, that's also going to help Tesla. But from a perspective of if Elon can actually call up Trump when he's in office and say, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this. I know you have your constituents that believe in this. Is there any way we can negotiate to like he can actually get things done? And I think that's actually a positive for Tesla. A lot of people don't want, politics and business to mix, but at the end of the day, business is business. And if Elon has an ally in the White House versus someone who's been antagonistic towards him in the context of Biden, objectively, not inviting him to these EV summits when the only reason we have EVs is because of Elon, I think we would have a White House that is more excited, and Elon that's more excited for this White House. So that potentially could be a benefit on Tesla as well. I don't know how much of a benefit that is, but I would imagine that is somewhat of a benefit, and that's why the market is excited right now, up 3.8% in the context of Tesla. Regional banks are doing well. TFC is up. The KRE Regional Banking Index is up as well, up almost 2%, 1.56%. And the reason why they're up is because the perception is when we get a rate cut, loan losses come off of the books for regional banks, and regional banks have been obviously hit badly. This thing was down almost 60% when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. So financials is one place that we can see outperforming when we get cuts or the closer to a cut, along with small caps. And then the question is, do large caps also perform during that time? So speaking of large caps, let's talk about a large cap called Apple. And I want to talk about Palantir in the context of Apple, but let me get through the Apple 2% raise first. Why is Apple up 2%? Well, Apple reported India sales being up 33% year over year. Morgan Stanley decided to say this is our top pick for the rest of the year. $273 price target. That's very similar to Dan Ives' $275 price target. And Apple basically said, we are not the no growth, boring iPhone company that everyone thought. We are now the growth and innovation epicenter for consumer AI. And the only way consumers are going to have AI is if our iPhone actually gets into the broader ecosystem. Morgan Stanley specifically said today on Apple, let me pull up their exact note. They said that we are elevating Apple to our top pick. We believe Apple Intelligence is a clear catalyst for a multi-year product upgrade cycle, which the market still underappreciates. Our analysis suggests Apple will ship nearly 500 million iPhones over the next 2 years, which means there's got to be a big upgrade cycle. This will drive 5% annual iPhone ASP growth, resulting in nearly $485 billion of total revenue and $870 in earnings by full year 2026, using a regression implied target multiple of 31 PE, which is reasonable at least. This leads to our new $273 price target. Now, the reason I wanted to compare Apple in the context of Palantir, not because Apple is Palantir, but it just goes to show you there is no way in hell, I think if you ask Warren Buffett himself, who owns a lot of Apple, would he think paying $235 a share at a 35 PE, given the current growth of Apple, is justified. $3.54 trillion. I don't think there's any value investor on the planet that would be like, oh, that's a phenomenal deal. However, the perception of Apple is that they will not only grow into the valuation, but they will grow so largely in the overall multi-trillion-dollar TAM that is AI, and they are the only vehicle by which consumers actually access AI in a sophisticated, private, and meaningful way, that they not only deserve a premium, but they deserve an excess premium because they have sort of a monopoly on that category, and therefore investors are willing to pay more right now for future cash flows. The reason I want to compare this to Palantir, even though obviously Palantir is not Apple, is because I kind of think that's the same argument. Palantir not the same scale, but probably most investors, definitely value investors, would tell you paying $28.50 for Palantir, given their growth, price of sales, PE, just not worth it. Let them grow into the valuation. But the argument is Palantir not only will grow into that valuation, they might end up being the only one in SaaS-based AI, given how we're seeing Palantir goes green while other SaaS names go red. Multiple times we've seen that in Snowflake, Oracle, Salesforce, etc., over the past couple months, where Palantir has a pseudo monopoly on actually unlocking AI for the enterprise. Will that happen? I don't know. It's more likely that Apple has a monopoly on consumer AI than Palantir has a monopoly on enterprise AI. But that is the perception right now. And if that perception holds to be true, then Palantir probably commands a multiple and maintains this multiple. Switching over to Palantir, the idea that Palantir has stayed above 27 for almost the past 2 weeks now is quite incredible. I mean, it's pretty amazing. We were at $23 on June 24th. And since then, steady rises from 25 to 26. And then we stayed at 27 all week. We hit 28.77. We closed at 28 last week, now at 28.51 in the pre-markets. Maybe we don't hold 28. Maybe we don't keep $28. But we've held 27 very nicely. And if 27 becomes support going into earnings and Palantir even slightly does better than analyst expectations and we maintain 27, if not start to gap up into that 29.30 range, along with a rate cut coming a month after earnings, Palantir could have a really good end of the year. An end of the year that puts it up more than 100%. Right now, it's up around 67%. So we'll see what happens with Palantir, but I wanted to do that comparison because it does feel like the perception is becoming reality for Palantir, and that perception can be reality for a very long time, like it has been with Apple. And if that's the case, then Palantir should benefit going off into the end of the year. Broadcom finished their stock split today. Is that officially live in the pre-market? Yeah, that's live. Pre-market $170 for Broadcom. So MicroStrategy is up nicely in the pre-market, up almost 9%, 8.65, because obviously Bitcoin is higher. They will be doing a stock split, I believe, in mid-August. So this would be $151. Right now it's $15.18. That should probably help the options chain for MicroStrategy increase in terms of liquidity. And then Broadcom, you would imagine that as well. Broadcom is the market cap says $7 trillion. Right now, because it's probably 700 billion when it splits. But Broadcom is being considered a Mag 8, given how important it is. And so Broadcom earnings is going to be just as important as NVIDIA this year. Obviously, NVIDIA is much more important, but it's going to be up there. As long as Broadcom does well, NVIDIA should do well, and same vice versa for NVIDIA and Broadcom. NVIDIA right here up 1.54%, Tesla up 3.89%, Meta's down a little bit, Google's down a little bit, Amazon's down a little bit, Apple's up, and then Microsoft is down a little bit as well. Okay, so let's talk about Google. Did you guys see the news about the Google acquisition over the weekend? Because I don't understand how Google thinks this is a good deal. Obviously, I am not the one conducting the acquisition, so I probably don't know. Don't know why they're doing this, but trying to be objective and analyzing it, it's tough for me to see the case, but I'm sure we'll get more information in the future. So Google is acquiring a company called Wiz, a cybersecurity startup, for $23 billion. Google has never spent more than $12.5 billion. This is a history, what you're looking at right now on the screen, of all their acquisitions. This is the top 10 acquisitions. They spent $12.5 billion on Motorola. I didn't even know they bought Motorola. They spent $1.7 billion on YouTube. Obviously, YouTube has done phenomenal. YouTube is probably worth around $450 billion right now. So, I mean, they made 400x on that investment in 20 years. Like, just one of the best corporate acquisitions of all time. They acquired DoubleClick, Waze, HTC, Fitbit, AdMob, but they've never acquired a company for $23 billion. The broader problem with Google buying this startup, which I think the regulators won't shut it down, because at the end of the day, companies need to grow. And if they shut down every acquisition and then the GDP starts falling off, you can't blame Google. Google's trying to grow, but you're not letting them. So I think the acquisition goes through, and it doesn't seem like it's that much antitrust. The problem with Google doing this is it's showing us right now that, and it's not just Google, it's all of big tech. Microsoft wanted to acquire Activision for $60 billion. They need inorganic ways to grow, because their core search business, whether it's Google or Microsoft's Office, Azure Cloud, it's not growing as much as it was growing 10 years ago. Now, they're still growing and they're still putting up amazing numbers, and AI, thank God, has been a tailwind to actually accelerate that growth and get the market to be perceptually behind the growth that they're putting up. But there's not as much growth there. One of the best companies to kind of look at this as a case study is Salesforce. Salesforce had to acquire many companies over the past 5 years. One of the worst acquisitions they did was Slack, $41 billion. They obviously overpaid when we had the bubble in 2021. But They have to pay in order to be able to get growth. Even Robinhood, by the way, Robinhood doing really well in the pre-markets right here, $23.08. Robinhood acquired a company called Say Technologies that controls proxy votes for shareholders for $140 million back in 2021. I'm sure that company is not worth $140 million. So every company, overpaid for acquisitions in 2021. The question is, in 2024, is Google overpaying to find some way to inorganically grow by giving $23 billion, which is, by the way, that's the amount of net income Google makes per quarter. They're giving a quarter's worth of net income profits to buy the startup. I don't know if it's in stock or if it's in cash. We got to go through those details, but curious what people think about this deal in the context of Google. Some of you are saying in the chat that you're not excited for it, not a fan of it. Beneficial says not a fan of the Google acquisition. Yeah, I think we need more information for why cybersecurity is the niche they're getting into. And I mean, it's obvious cybersecurity is important, but like, why $23 billion worth of cybersecurity? Now, the company they're acquiring is growing, I believe, like 200% year over year. They're close to $450 million in annual recurring revenue. So they're paying a steep multiple on it, but it's not like the growth isn't there. I guess they think the growth will continue, and that's why the multiple is justified. But that's why Google is probably down in the pre-market right now as well, because the street might not love this acquisition right now. Shout out to Adam. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Best morning show, period. So much value. Thank you, Amit. I gained so much information. Thank you 1,000 times. Trump 2024. Thank you, Adam, for that. I appreciate that. Now, Adam is one of my good friends, and Adam is unequivocally and sort of patriotically a Trump supporter. And the good thing about Adam and I is that we can be friends, right? We can talk about politics. We can agree on certain things. We can not agree on certain things, but we, at the end of the day, are friends. We care about each other, and the stock market puts us together and bonds us, and then we can have casual conversations about other things that exist. So one of the reasons why it's so important to actually talk to people that disagree with you is because you can create lifelong friendships with them, even if you don't fully always agree with their political assessment or even their stock picks, right? Even though the different plays they're making in the market. So I think it's just so important for us to be able to have those casual discussions and actually care about each other outside of our political affiliations, or else we're going to result in things, Bitcoin right here at 63,000, where you might feel so compelled that you need to result in violence to take out a political candidate. Like, it's absolutely insane. And so hopefully that changes as we get deeper into American politics. The good thing is that Biden did try to, shut things down, say that we should be not encouraging, violence and political violence. I think Trump is going to have a monster opportunity at the Republican National Convention to basically come out and say, hey, we all need to be, more or less, more to the side of less violent in our political discourse and come together as a nation. Trump could go the route of saying we need to fight back and sort of insinuate violence in his tone. I don't think he's going to do that. And if he doesn't do that and he kind of takes the high road here and says we all need to come together, I think he's going to be looked at very favorably from a lot of different sides, definitely from independents. And that's going to be good for Trump. SoFi right here, $7.09, up 1.72% in the pre-market. So SoFi obviously getting some momentum as well. Anthony Noto did endorse, I mean, not explicitly, but he basically said he wants Trump to win on a CNBC interview last week. And rate cuts will help SoFi. So maybe SoFi can get out of that $6 level and start making its way past the $7 level. Also, it's nice that banks are having good earnings. Maybe it signals that SoFi's earnings are going to be good as well. And so that should overall help SoFi going into the September cutting cycle that we hopefully see. KRE 1.69%. Goldman Sachs down just a little bit now in the pre-markets. Netflix down a little bit, than Apple here up 2.47% on the day. All right, let's see what happens. We are going to have this market open in about 2 minutes. If you are just joining, no headline news today outside of the events that happened over the weekend. Markets are up right now primarily because it seems like they're pricing in a Trump victory. If, God forbid, anything had happened that was fatal to the president, I believe this would be a very different market today. Things would be down, and I don't think any of that would have been a black swan event that I don't think any of us were prepared for. And that would have, I think, eliminated a lot of gains for a majority of different stocks that are contingent. For example, all the Bitcoin proxies would have taken a hit because Bitcoin would have taken a hit. So like, there's so many different ways wealth would have been wiped out if that had happened. And 0.3 seconds and a couple of millimeters separated that from happening. So I guess we are really grateful for how this all played out, at least. And now we're going to see the implications of what happens in the broader market and see how it plays out. Did he say he wants Trump to win, or a Trump win is good for SoFi there? Well, Noto said a Republican win is good for SoFi. So whether or not he agreed, well, no, he did say like, on one day I'm rooting for a certain team. And if that team is the Republicans, then I would imagine, he's rooting for Trump at that point. All right, 9:30 a.m. Monday, July 15th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. S&P 500, 562.05, up 0.36% on the day. Robinhood up 2.68%, 2286. CRM 255. MicroStrategy up 8.26%. Broadcom officially has done its split. $793 billion market cap, $170 a share from $1,710 for one split. Apple is up 2.15% on the day, $235. NVIDIA 130, up 1%. IWM is up with Apple on the day and NVIDIA. So we got large caps that are up and IWM, small caps are up. Bitcoin, 62,800. DJT opens up 40%. It was up 53% in the pre-markets, now up 40%. So I imagine some people definitely took some profits as soon as the market opened, but we'll see how that one plays out. But we are green right here on DJT. Teladoc 940, that's up a little bit. Tesla 2.3%, 254. Elon Musk did endorse Donald Trump over the weekend. Google 187, Amazon 193, TFC, wow, $41.08 TFC right there, surging as the regional banking index also surges as well. JP Morgan's up 2%. Wells Fargo, nice recovery, up 2%. Citibank, $64. QQQ, 496. SoFi, 710. SoFi's up 1.79% on the day. Robinhood, 2287. Where's Palantir? Palantir, 2805. So we got a red candle right there on Palantir, now slightly green, basically flat on the day. Again, for me, 27.5. If we can hold that level, that's really good. That'll establish a base, but let's see if we can keep the 28s, 2806 for Palantir. TNA, triple leverage fund on IWM, is up 2%. It's up basically 20% in the past month. This one has done very, very well, and this is kind of a way to get more exposure to small caps. So if small caps continue to gain momentum, TNA should be able to gain momentum as well. Robinhood, 2294, 2296, up 2.83%. MicroStrategy, 1501. Bitcoin right there at 62,744. Let's go to the Mag 7. We've got Meta slightly green, Microsoft green, Apple, wow, 236. Apple looks like it wants to make a run to 240, which would be pretty damn incredible. Tesla's up, NVIDIA's up, Amazon slightly down, and then Google's down. The only reason Amazon's down is because Bezos keeps selling. And so until Bezos is done selling like I think 15 million shares he has left, Amazon's probably going to be a little stuck. But Amazon's still maintaining the 190. Celsius is down another 9%. Nike's also down. Nike's down 1%. Where's Starbucks? Oh my God, guys, all the money's leaving. All the money's leaving the value traps. It's leaving Starbucks, it's leaving Nike, and it's going into other shit. Goodness gracious. Is Verizon green? No, Verizon's red as well. Maybe the money, it's either going to come from money market funds or it's going to come from value names, but the money's going to have to come from somewhere if IWM, small caps and large caps go up. They both can't go up together, I would imagine. I mean, they can, but it's just going to be hard. Money's going to have to come from somewhere. Now, Celsius, why is Celsius down 8%? Let's see. Let's do a quick search on Celsius. I don't see any news on Celsius. Wall Street Journal put out an article about, Wall Street Journal, they put out an article. Young women with eating disorders feel the pull of energy drinks. Wow, they did a hit piece on energy drinks. Goodness gracious. I haven't read the article. I'm looking at it right now, but apparently, this is the graphic. Look at this. They put out Celsius right front and center. Celsius has 200 milligrams of caffeine. That's actually less than Starbucks, Red Bull, Diet Coke, Lipton black tea, and similar to Alani, which is another energy drink. I don't know if that warrants a 5%, 8% down on Celsius. I mean, that seems I don't know. Wall Street Journal articles, I don't know. I guess that's the reason so far, but if Celsius is perceived as wildly unhealthy, I guess it'll go down a little bit more. Yeah, some of that money will rotate, hopefully, into Palantir. So we got Celsius down 8%. Palantir is, wow, 2013. So we're still green on Palantir. Robinhood, 2298. KRE is up. Netflix turns green, 650. Apple, 236. NVIDIA, 130. And IWM is still up. IWM now falling, a little bit of red candle there. So we'll see if we can maintain its green momentum. but markets are still surging higher. GameStop's down, Uber's down, Chewy is down, Rivian's down 4%. It was up like 10% on Friday, and then Lucid's down 6%. They were up as well. JetBlue, that one is up 0.4%. 2X Bitcoin ETF, that's up 16%, given Bitcoin's up. And then Carnival Cruise is also down on the day. Snowflake still melting, as Sachin says in the chat. Yeah, so we talked about Snowflake on Friday. They had a really big data leak with them and AT&T. It seems like the leak is going to be okay. If you used AT&T from October to May of 2022, you potentially could have had your text messages compromised. I was reading somewhere else, though, that it seems like AT&T has it under control. Not fully sure on the details, but all of AT&T's data was stored in Snowflake. And so the bad press continues for Snowflake as it falls 1.47%. What's worse about this is I was reading some articles that Frank Slootman knew about this back in February when he resigned. And they were kind of hoping it would go under the rug. It didn't go under the rug. We still aren't confirmed about that, but it makes sense why he liquidated a lot of shares at 250, why he left, and potentially, Snowflake now has to deal with this situation in order for things to figure it out. Palantir is at a 3-year high. Snowflake is very far from its all-time high. Yeah, I mean, Snowflake and Palantir comparisons, obviously. Palantir is up almost 200% from DPO. Snowflake is down like 40%. So definitely a tough run for both of them. But again, this is why the market might be giving companies like Palantir a little bit more of a premium compared to other SaaS names. Tesla 258 up 4%. Rocket Lab down 2.65%. It was almost touching $6 on Friday. SoFi 704. SoFi's got to hold that $7 range for us to potentially make a run to $8 on a good earnings and an inflation report that obviously would show that a rate cut's coming. But let's see if we can hold 7 on SoFi. Robinhood, wow, 23.17. Look at that. Nice breakout on Robinhood, 23.24. I think Robinhood's going to have a good earnings. I think it's waiting to break out. Now, the reason they're surging right here, just like the days where I say Robinhood's down, is the same thing, Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin's up, so Robinhood's up. Bitcoin is not all of Robinhood's business, but it is some of it. And the market has kind of, used the algorithms to kind of pair them together. So Bitcoin up about 4% from last night. You're going to get a surge in Robinhood. And now, as long as Robinhood can capitalize on this, we should be able to get to a new voice. Also, it's been coiling up pretty nicely at that 2280 range. So any sort of positive catalyst and momentum can get Robinhood to get higher into that hopefully 25 level after earnings. Enphase is down 7%. See, this is confusing to me because we got a good inflation report last week. We know rate cuts are coming. The Fed's comments today, Fed Goolsbee, he basically said, quite literally, a rate cut is coming. So I'm confused why some of these assets that go inverse to a rate cut are going down today. It's weird. If anything, you would think they're higher. But maybe money's rotating, right? Maybe money's leaving some of those assets into different areas. Robinhood right here, 23.40, really getting a green candle right now. Not bad. Not bad at all. MicroStrategy at 15.30, Broadcom at 171. Goldman Sachs, if you're just joining, wow, Goldman Sachs up 2%. They had a great earnings. They beat on the top and the bottom line, 17% year-over-year growth, 115% net income growth. So Goldman Sachs really doing a great job on their earnings. They're getting rewarded right now. And then Apple right here, 235. India sales are up 33% year-over-year. Now, one thing that is interesting about the Apple news, India sales were up over the last 8 months. But now that the narrative has changed about Apple, India seems like this massive catalyst, when in reality, India was always a catalyst and they were always growing in India. So as narratives change, any bit of good news can kind of compound on the overall argument for a company, and Wall Street can get behind it. And they can ultimately change how they think about a stock at the end of the day. Again, for those asking about Celsius, I have no clue outside of a Wall Street Journal article that came out today that said caffeine drinks are hurting the young women of the world. It's so I mean, here's the title: Young Women with Eating Disorders Feel the Pull of Energy Drinks. Again, I don't know if that's enough of an article to tank a stock 8%. I mean, it's not like this article is going to stop young women from drinking or young men from drinking Celsius. So until it gets to the point where Celsius is legit killing people, which I haven't heard of yet, I don't think people are going to stop drinking Celsius. But I don't know. I guess the negative press is definitely not welcome by the stock market, by the Wall Street Journal. Tesla 260. There you go. Tesla. Wow. Up 5% on the day. So apparently the robo-taxi event being delayed does not matter. We saw it recover intraday on Friday, but then it fell towards the end of the day. 261 now in Tesla. The endorsement of Elon by Trump, I do think, is a positive catalyst for the stock. And, you might have some Trump supporters that are buying Tesla just because they like that Elon supported Trump. That tweet got 200 million views. I would imagine there are people that didn't like Elon because they thought he was anti-Trump for some reason, and now they're hardcore Trump fans, and they're going to go buy a Tesla just because Elon supported Trump. I mean, the level of support Trump has, especially after the events that happened over the weekend, I think definitely can cause more financial interest within DJT, Tesla, etc., or any company related to Trump to gain momentum. DJT right here, still up 31% on the day from some of the events that have happened over the weekend. Martin says, we don't know if 8.8 has been delayed. Yeah, I'll go out on a limb and I'll say 8.8 is definitely delayed. That is my particular opinion, given Elon has not answered. Look, I think what's happening is that 8.8 was never going to happen, quite frankly. Elon just said that to combat the robotaxi Reuters article. And then his team decided to start working on 8.8. And then within 3 months, they realized it's better to extend it than just, put out a shitty event. And so they're extending it. And I agree with Dan Ives that 2 months of a delay really doesn't matter. However, maybe Elon hasn't denied the Bloomberg article because he thinks there's a chance they can pull it off. And it would be so awesome on August 1st if they said, oh, by the way, 8.8's happening in a week. And Elon acts like nothing ever happened. Like there was never any doubt that it would happen. That would be some gangster shit. But I don't know if that'll take place. If it does, then that would be epic. If it doesn't, then we got to wait two more months. It's not that big of a deal. S&P 562. Not bad. So S&P is up 0.5% on the day. And we're gaining a little bit more momentum. Celsius is being Fahrenheited. Yes, that is exactly what's happening. Where's PayPal? By the way, PayPal got hit with a $20 million fine. It's a relatively small fine, but maybe that's why they're down. They were up in the pre-markets. Then the news came out that they got hit with some stupid fine and they're down 0.38%. So PayPal continuing to do what PayPal does. Tesla 261, Robinhood, wow, 23.49, up 5.43%. Let me see if there's any other catalyst on Hood that I don't know about. I don't think they got any upgrade or anything like that. I really just think it's the Bitcoin news. They did get an upgrade from Piper Sandler last week. Bank of America said they're probably going to crush EPS. So Wall Street's getting on track with it and they're upgrading and all that stuff. But I don't think there's any specific news today that got it to go higher outside of Bitcoin. So there you go. Robinhood at 23.50. Coinbase as well, probably getting some momentum. Yeah, Coinbase. There you go. 236, up 8.44% as Bitcoin goes up 0.2% on the day. All right, not bad. We got a bit of a green market. Even though the events over the weekend were absolutely horrific. Now, some of the things that this weekend will bring into question. Oh, one thing real quick before I talk about that, Burberry had some really crappy results, and this is potentially weak for the consumer. So Burberry says our Q1 full year 2025 performance is disappointing. Luxury market is proving more challenging than expected. The weakness we highlighted coming into full year 2025 has deepened, and if the current trend persists through our Q2, we expect to report an operating loss for the first half of 2024. Or 2025. So Burberry, which makes like belts and bags and like basically luxury stuff, they said, yeah, things are not going good. So maybe people aren't buying luxury anymore, showing that the consumer is weakening, which is plausible that that's happening. But that might take a little bit of a hit on LVMH stock if you are in that one. So I guess we're gonna have to see kind of how that plays out, but that definitely could have a particular impact on just how we think of the overall luxury market in general. Bitcoin right here trying to get to 63,000, 62,912 over the course of this market open. Burberry right now is down. It's down 33% year to date. So Burberry obviously has not had a good year as well. Now, one question has been brought up that definitely impacts the broader markets. Burberry right here down 33%. Is how the Secret Service kind of let this whole Trump situation play out. For those that don't know the details about this, the shooter was about 450 yards away on a rooftop. And there is video evidence of people recording this guy getting on this ladder, getting onto the rooftop, setting up his gun, and having clear aim at the president. For those that don't know how presidential rallies kind of take place, Secret Service goes there weeks, if not months in advance, checks out the entire area, kind of looks at what's happening, and then is able to conduct a rally, because obviously rallies can be an unsafe space. The shooter had a clear shot on Trump. And so I think the federal investigation that is going to be launched, which is definitely going to impact the broader markets, is going to be, how did this happen? And how did that shooter have that clear of an aim? Also, how is this random 20-year-old guy who's not even dressed in camouflage having full access to take a headshot? I mean, it's one of the most insane things that has ever happened from the Secret Service letting that happen. One report said that Secret Service actually did have him in view. They could have sniped him before he shot. Robin at 2362, but they didn't get the final orders to take the snipe until he took the shot. And so I think the investigation of that is going to be very important. And that's probably going to inflate as well in terms of the markets for how Trump reacts to that, and how Biden indicates where that investigation is going in the broader ecosystem. But it was pretty bad, dude. It was pretty bad that actually was able to play out. Sorry, I said 450 yards. I meant 450 feet, or 120 yards, not 450 yards. It was very, very close, and somehow it was able to happen. Do you think it's an inside job? No, not right now. I don't have enough evidence to think that, but I think anyone saying that it's not an inside job and saying like everyone's crazy for thinking that, I think like it's just not having enough sympathy for the fact that in the United States, we have conducted inside jobs before, not only on JFK, on Martin Luther King. If you look up COINTELPRO, there's so many times where the United States has done these different types of things. And it's one of those things. Robin at 2364, nice green candle right there. It's one of those things you can't just ignore when you hear about it. It's not something you automatically believe, but it's definitely something you at least look at the evidence, or you want to have an investigation. I think that's it's valuable to look at both sides of it. Personally, right now, I don't think it was an inside job. I think it was just a nut job. But a lot of the evidence for the fact that he was even able to do this begs the question, like, how did this happen? And maybe it's worth at least investigating a little bit more to see how it played out. A lot of people said this on Twitter. Could Palantir have presented this? I would imagine Palantir potentially could have prevented this thing from happening. But the fact that it even happened was just insane. And so we'll see how the markets react to that. Wow, Nvidia just went red. Look at that. IWM still green. Nvidia just went red. Apple is green. Big tech now going red. Small caps going up. And then Robinhood, I think the star of the show today, up 5.5% on the day. Robinhood really breaking out here. Netflix at 654. Goldman Sachs up still 2%. And then Apple at 234 right now. So that's what we got on Nvidia. Let's see what else we have right here. The CEO left Burberry. Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. That's another reason why Burberry's down. All right. So luxury market not doing the best for Burberry. We'll see on LVMH's earnings if that's a universal trend in the luxury market, because it might just be limited to Burberry. But if it is, then the consumer probably is weakening if they can't afford to buy that much stuff. But now, granted, luxury consumers shouldn't ever be weakening, right? They should always have disposable income because they have the excess cash. But if they're showing weakness, then maybe the broader consumer is weakening. That is a point of data that is important. And so I think LVMH's earnings will show that it's not just a Burberry thing. It's a broader trend in the luxury market. Delta's still down a little bit today. Uber's down because Tesla's up. GameStop is up 26.47. That's up 1.6%. ARM 181. Open Doors up 1.2%. AT&T down from the Friday's news 1%. Intel up 2%. Look at Intel 35.18. Not bad. Taiwan Semi $970 billion. That's down a little bit from Friday, but it's up today. Walgreens 11.51. That was at 10.82. SMCI. Some news on SMCI. SMCI is being added to the NASDAQ 100. SMCI is being added to the NASDAQ 100. So SMCI up 2%. There's going to be a lot more fund managers that need exposure to SMCI. And that should definitely be a good string of momentum for SMCI as well. Google, a 186, Robinhood 2367. Not bad on Robinhood. Let's see if we can make a run to 24. Let me see the order book flow. See if there's any resistance. Palantir as well, green. Palantir goes green as well. And Palantir gets some momentum. So Robinhood, there is a wall at 25, but not at 24. At 24, there are 27,000 shares. That's reasonable. At 25, there are 381,000 shares. So I would bet we don't get to 25 today, but is there a shot we touch 24? Yes, I think that's possible. Palantir, let's go to Palantir. Palantir right here, 28.40. Again, Palantir continuing to stay in this 28 range, which is incredible. Yeah, there's no walls for Palantir until that $30 range. Even 29, There's like 40,000 shares, but it's not like it's not impossible to get over that hump either. Pretty incredible, dude. Palantir and Robinhood, pretty damn incredible. Just doing what they need to do, holding on to their momentum and really establish them. Wow, Robinhood 2374. Look at that. Look at that. I check stock order flow by being a gold member on Robinhood. So on Robinhood, if you pay $5 a month, they give you NASDAQ level 2 order flow. It's not the most accurate, but I would say 85%. I can't see dark pools or anything, but it gives me a decent understanding of it. You can also see it on Webull if you pay for some elite version or premium version. Same thing with TradingView, but I just use Robinhood because it's easy to see it. So that's how I access that. 2375 here. And another just quick important thing on Robinhood. Yesterday, when the overnight markets opened, everyone went to Robinhood because everyone wanted to see how Tesla would go up and how DJT would go up. And obviously both of them went up a lot. And so people were, it's just one of those things, those innovations that Robinhood launched that keeps it the center of attention on a Sunday night. And everyone wanted to know how the markets would react. And as you can see, given how stocks are performing currently, IWM up almost 1% now. Robinhood was a good precursor to that in the overnight market. It's not always accurate, but it at least shows where the momentum is headed. And, that's just another way for people to be engaged with the platform. TFC, $40.90. Look at SoFi up 3%. 718 on SoFi. Wow. 718 on SoFi. Not bad. SoFi up 3%. SoFi doing what it's got to do, getting out of that $6 range. It's not bad at all for SoFi. And then Palantir right here, 28.37. Snowflake's still down. Verizon's down. Starbucks down. Nike is down 1%. TNA up 2.63%. And Palantir continuing to maintain its momentum. How does NVIDIA dump? Again, the money's got to come from somewhere. It's going to be hard for IWM to go up at the same time as NVIDIA. It's going to be hard for the Russell and NVIDIA to both go up. There's got to be some rotation, or money's got to come from selling your house or selling, real estate investment properties or money market funds. Like I just don't know if corporations and hedge funds have that much money to allocate to both, especially when they want to be overweight one sector if they think there's going to be more performance. I mean, this is basically what Druckenmiller did, right? He got rid of his NVIDIA and he rotated into small caps. He's either going to be right or wrong about that. But I would expect an inverse relationship with both. If we see both go up at the same time, I don't know where the money's coming from, but that would be a true everything rally. And I don't know if we would see that rally just given NVIDIA's up almost 200%. Can you view Robinhood's overnight markets if I'm from Canada and I don't have an account? Unfortunately not, because you can't download it in Canada. Maybe there's like a VPN in a way you can download it from that, like some way. But to make an account, you have to put in like your banking information, all that stuff. So it's kind of hard to see. I think you can log on though. And even if you're not logged in, you can kind of see how some tickers are moving maybe. But yeah, unfortunately it's not there in Canada yet. Must be some big seller dumping NVIDIA strongly. Potentially it could be the broader market or just one whale liquidating a little bit and moving it into some other things. PayPal now goes green. Nice on PayPal. Palantir 28.37 again. Palantir shows weakness in the morning, 27.90, and then it jumps right back up because people want exposure to the stock. I am really starting to think that Q2 earnings, there's something about it that we don't know, because the bounce we've seen from 28 down to 26 every time closing back above 28 or high 27s, it feels like there's some whales that just think that earnings are going to be so spectacular that it's going to create a ton of momentum. And given how much I analyze the company, even I don't know what they could present that would like create that big of a beat outside of just higher commercial growth, which maybe that's what the street is betting on. But I don't know. I don't know if we actually convert a ton of clients and beat revenue and raise a ton of guidance. So we're going to see, but it seems like the street is betting on something big happening with Palantir. Otherwise, I don't think they would have maintained the levels that they're at right now. Robinhood 23.65, still up 6% on the day. Broadcom 170, and then MicroStrategy here at 15.30 on the day as well. Phoenix has Palantir $700 million for the quarter. If Palantir puts up a $700 million quarter, we're going past 30. We're going past 30. It's going to be instantly. If we beat by 50 million, right now the street's thinking we're going to do 650 million. That would be incredible. It would just be incredible. But I don't know. I don't know if in Q2 we have a $700 million quarter lined up. Because remember, if we put up a $700 million quarter, I would imagine Palantir is going to want to keep the growth in a linear fashion, and they would want to never report another quarter below 700 million. So that psychologically is going to be important for the company, for them to know that their remaining performance obligations gives them enough growth to keep putting up 700 million plus every quarter, and then it's going to be 800 billion, and eventually they'll put up $1 billion per quarter, right? And like they don't want to seem like they're going backwards. So it's going to be really interesting if they actually end up putting up those big numbers in Q2. Tesla 260, Tesla back to 5%, Celsius down 9%. Kind of feels unwarranted, dude. Maybe this is an excuse for growth slowing down and they're using the safety reasons as a reason to dump it. But Celsius is definitely taking a hit. S&P right here at 561 on the day, and Tesla is up 5%. Coinbase is rel 235. Palantir, wow, 28.44 on Palantir. We haven't made a run to 29 yet. We haven't made that run yet. 7 million shares have been traded in the first 20 minutes. We'll see if we can potentially make that run, but 28.65-ish is where it kind of gets rejected. Robinhood's still 23.73 on the day. Okay, let's see what else we got. What other kind of core headlines that we're looking at? Oh, let's look at this. So valuations in the context of large cap isn't is much stronger than it is for other stocks, and this could support the sort of broadening up of the rally. So the average price to earnings ratio on a trailing 12 months for the Magnificent Seven is 52. For the Nasdaq, it's 44. For the S&P, it's 26. For the equal weighted S&P, it's 19. For the Russell 2000, it's 38. So that is one of those reasons. If you look at price to sales, the average price to sales for a Russell 2000 company is 1.3. For the Magnificent Seven, it's 13. So, I mean, if you're paying 13 times less for a company, but getting 11% more growth, 19% versus 8% of the average S&P company, there is an argument that the small caps are undervalued. And this has been Tom Lee's kind of core thesis for the majority of this bull run that we've been having. So the question is just going to be if that ends up playing out and if we're able to gain the momentum that is needed to keep things going. China's Q2 GDP came in at 4.7% year over year, below expectations of 5.1%. Another reason why investing in China right now is a little tough. Robinhood 23.72, Palantir 28.44. Let's go to Alibaba. Alibaba is down 2% on the day. So China GDP estimate's not good. There are some rumors saying that China's going to unban Bitcoin because they're realizing that there needs to be an avenue for wealth creation. And maybe Bitcoin is that avenue. And if they allowed Bitcoin mining, there would be a whole industry that opens up in China. That would be really good for Bitcoin, probably really good for China. Maybe that happens, maybe that doesn't, but that would be very exciting if China ends up deciding to unban Bitcoin. And they need to do something because at this point, there's not a lot of avenues of liquidity that are opening up in the broader region. Tesla 261.39, trying to get to 262. Larry Fink's on CNBC. Okay, let's go to that. Thank you for telling me that. Let's pull up Mr. Fink and have him pump Bitcoin because that definitely would help. Let me know if you're buying the Celsius dip as well. Let me know if you are buying this Celsius dip. I'm curious if anyone's interested at these levels. If you think your DD kind of suggests that Celsius at 53 is not too bad. All right, let's start from the beginning of this Larry Fink interview. So I got it pulled up right here. Let's see what he has to say today.
Optimistic and lifting because it's very clear you favor growth. It's very clear that the acquisition, by the way, which I wish you would let individuals in, Global Industrial Park. I tried to get into it and they said no, and I didn't want to call you and say I went in. But you are someone who I believes that growth could get us out of this jam in this country.
Well, growth is probably the most important component for all countries in the world today. I spoke at the G7 recently. I did an editorial. We need to find ways of growth, especially in front of an election right now. Both candidates need to talk about growth, need to find ways of creating optimism and creating opportunities for growth. Growth is not going to come from tax cuts. That's too short term. Growth is not going to come from tax increases. We need to be building America. We need to be reducing the extensive process of permitting. We have an infrastructure boom that is necessary, whether that is for digitization, decarbonization. We are blessed by having energy efficiency here in this country and we can do so much as a country right now, but we're inhibited by our controls. And we need to be growing out of this. And this is my message, not just to the U.S., but to every country right now. We have rising deficits. No one is spending enough time talking about deficits. The U.S. deficits are the largest in the world, growing at the fastest rate in the world. And we need to be finding ways of minimizing the role of the deficits on the economy, on interest rates, on inflation. And so we need to grow. And if we can't grow out of this, these deficits are going to be becoming a big burden. And we're going to be really putting on the backs of our children, our grandchildren, a real burden of these massive, massive spends that we can't afford.
I think it's important to point out you did not say one candidate.
We'll go back to Fink in a second. Macy's is down 17%. Palantir really showing some momentum, folks. 28.60 on Palantir. Again, this is the conclusion I'm coming to as I'm seeing the price action for, what is this, the 9th day in a row. I don't think this is retail. I think the street believes something's happening with Palantir. I really don't think these are a bunch of retail investors that don't know about Palantir propping it up above 52-week highs, making new 52-week highs 9 days in a row. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But that's just like not normal price action with zero catalyst. We've had no catalyst in the last month for Palantir. Yes, we got some deals, but they're not like deals that are like, oh my God, you know? So I really do think that the street thinks something. And either on August 7th or August 5th, whenever earnings are, because they didn't fully announce yet, either this thing tanks 20% and this multiple is ridiculous, or we sustain this number because something happens in Palantir that's more exciting, or we go higher because the company is reaching an inflection point and Wall Street figured it out, which is why they're buying the stock. It's one of those three. But something's happening right now in the context of Palantir. Robinhood 23.89. Maybe we touch 24. Maybe we touch 24 on Robinhood, up 7% on the day, really breaking out of that range it was stuck in. And it makes sense that it's breaking out to that level, 23.90. So let's see if we can get their Palantir at 28.68 on the day. All right, let's go back to Fink and see what he has to say.
Is more pro spend than another.
It's all pro spend.
Right. But I do think it's important also that President Trump has been adamant that there's been way too much regulation under President Biden. So I have to believe that you would say that.
Real quick, we got some breaking news. Trump's documents case has been dismissed by a federal judge. A federal judge has just dismissed. I believe this was the case of he didn't take the documents back when he left the Oval Office, something around he kept some documents that he shouldn't have kept, some case like that he was going to go on trial for today at 10 a.m. So 1 minute ago has been dismissed by a federal judge. That's good for Trump.
The business would be unfettered. And if they're unfettered, that could help the growth, which would therefore lower the deficit.
We need unfettered businesses right now. We need growth. And we're going to get growth from the private sector. We can't rely on public deficits anymore. The public deficits are just growing too fast as a percent of GDP. As a perspective, our deficits were only $8 trillion in 2020. They're going to be at $26 trillion, $36 trillion. We grew our deficits more than $1 trillion a year over the last 24 years. This is unheard of. It is at an unsustainable level. Yet we have the most dynamic capitalistic system in the world. We have great company. We have great ingenuity, great technology. Let it unbound, let it go, create great jobs, create opportunities, and we'll have a rising equity market that will really fuel this opportunity.
Is that a playbook that you think a President Trump would deliver? And what are your thoughts about what happened over the weekend?
I believe both political candidates need to be playing that playbook. So let's start there. And what happened this weekend is a tragedy. It is a statement of America today, though. We need to create hope. All of us have a responsibility. Every political candidate, every leader, every pastor, minister, rabbi, we all have a responsibility of bringing our community together to bring hope. And that's what we are here for, to bring hope, to provide a better future.
You came on a couple of quarters ago, and we talked about how American policy gets processed versus, say, Europe's. And your point then was, yeah, our conversations are often loud and messy, but we do it. We get it done.
Absolutely.
Is this weekend a threat to that?
No, by no means. This week is look at it. This weekend is a wake-up call to the rising hatred. At the same time, it's a wake-up call that we must change, and I think that wake-up call allows us to change. We need a fair and just system. So let's be clear. We need to have ways of.
All right, we'll go back to Fink, guys. We got a market that is surging on old levels. So first of all, Palantir, new 52-week high, 28.76. I think, let me check the resistance. I think there's a shot at 29. Robinhood, there's a shot at 24, 23.84 right now. On Palantir, at $29, there's 18,000 shares. 28.85, there's about 15,000. So we got a little bit of resistance to overcome it. But if the volume comes in, there's a shot. Snowflake's down today. Let's look at SAS. SAS is pretty much green. Snowflake's down and Atlassian's down. Everything else is up. So SAS is having a great day. Palantir up 2.46%. Mag 7 are all green. NVIDIA just went green slightly. Mag 7 are all green. And then small caps are up. Wow. Russell up almost 2%. Wow. And then Bitcoin doing great at 63,000. So Robinhood right here, obviously benefiting from that 23.83. There's a shot. Robinhood hits 24 and Palantir hits 29 today. There's a shot. It's gonna take some volume, but there's absolutely a chance that could play out. Where's SoFi? SoFi also, yeah. Shout out to Chris's Iron Condor. Palantir could not be stopped even with an iron condom. So Palantir just pushing right through. 720 on SoFi, 3.44%. SoFi really getting some love, and probably deservedly so. I mean, it's been a while that SoFi's been stuck in that range. So nice to see SoFi with some momentum. They have a good earnings. You get a rate cut a month after. I mean, SoFi back at 830, 850 is just not crazy. It's not crazy. Now, you could have the debate on if it's going to be overvalued from a tangible book perspective, yada, that's fine. But if Noto crushes earnings and we get a rate cut, I think 850 is not insane, potentially even $9 on SoFi. But we will see. We will see how that plays out. If SoFi drops back to the 650s after a good earnings, which would be a triple beat, and a rate cut, then there's no hope for the street to think of the company as more than just a bank. And quite frankly, they would be, even a bank would trade a little bit higher than some of those levels at that low $6 range. So I would imagine the bottom is in for SoFi. I would imagine that's the case. I could be wrong on that, but you would see the catalyst move in the right direction. Noto did say when we get rate cuts, we know our business is going to materially improve. They're going to be able to do more lending, all that stuff. So if that's the case, maybe the street changes their tone on SoFi. And then if they give any updates on Galileo and Technisys, and we see that AWS of fintech thesis play out more, that could help SoFi. IWM at 216, Tesla 260, NVIDIA 129, Coinbase 238, Robinhood 2379, and then Palantir. Palantir, where are we at? 2860. So just below that 2874 level. But so that Trump case getting dismissed, that's a big deal. DJT up on, it was already up 30%. It's up 34% right now. That's a big deal. What do you guys think? Do you think the Trump case was dismissed because of the judge feeling bad that Trump just had to go through the assassination attempt and they don't want to put him on trial? Or do you think it's because they actually looked at the documents and they said, hey, this case has no grounds for going to trial? Remember, his hush money trial case, because of the Supreme Court ruling, might have to be pushed to, well, it's definitely being pushed to September, but the judge might dismiss it because the evidence that was in that case goes against what the Supreme Court ruled. And then he has the January 6th insurrection case that potentially might get dismissed as well now. So the guy is on trial in 3 different cases. One of them got dismissed today. If the other 2 get dismissed, then there's a clear path with very little resistance for him to become president.
Having conversations about opportunity. There's too much conversation about the negatives. We need to have conversations about the opportunity and the positives. And we need to inform more people that there's real opportunity ahead. But we need to be helping people who are struggling in this path. But I travel the world. I've traveled the world the last few months. There is no more opportunity here in the United States than any other place in the world. And I say that with pride, and I say that with a sheer strength in my conviction that we are a place of growth. And I believe that is going to be the opportunity for companies like BlackRock to show that and to prove that and to provide that. We announced LifePath Paycheck to give more hope for retirement. We're about to close our GIP transaction right now. And so we believe the opportunity for infrastructure investing to invest, to create new jobs, better jobs, bigger jobs, We have that opportunity. At BlackRock, we had an amazing quarter where we had the biggest quarter in our history of $150 billion of flows in ETFs. No other quarter ever, $150 billion of flows.
Dude, 150 billion one quarter to BlackRock, 15 billion or 10 billion of that to Bitcoin ETFs. I mean, BlackRock's executing, and they're really trying to create the foundational framework for them to last for a long time, which is one of the reasons they got into the Bitcoin ETF, because they wanted millennials to invest with BlackRock.
And so we're in a position now of having these conversations, whether it's the conversations that we're having related to ETFs, or what we're having through infrastructure, or in Rick Reader's funds, or what we're doing in AI and investing in our quantitative systematic equity teams. We've had great performance. The last quarter we had 12% revenue, 12% operating income growth. We had 160 basis points in margin increase, so which tells you we have $2 trillion more in assets today than we did a year ago, and the same amount of employees. Okay, $2 trillion more in assets, the same amount of employees. That is technology at work.
That is just,
and that's AI. You can't have 2x the assets, but the same employees, unless there's some level of technology and a revolutionary technology that's allowing that to happen.
remarkable leverage, not the debt guy, the guy you want. Now, one of the things that I felt was really terrific, Larry, I got an understanding that maybe the people who invest are willing to take on a little more risk.
They are.
And that was fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
Because doesn't that mean optimism?
There's growing optimism worldwide. A lot of the optimism is on investing. I mean, I said in my calls this morning, the optimism we're seeing in investing in power, data, AI, we're talking about trillions of dollars. The opportunity to rebuild our infrastructure, the opportunity today to build out data centers that are not a part of the grid, but using our gas supply and our wind and solar. And maybe one day we'll have nuclear. These are trillions of dollars investments. I think we have a wake-up call in Houston right now with the real shock of how many homes are still without power. I look at this as an opportunity, though. We're here to invest. We're here to build out. We're here to make it more resilient. And those are the opportunities.
I think it's important to point.
Okay, so a couple updates on Trump. He officially said that he lost a chunk of his ear, but the Secret Service was able to protect it with a white bandage while he got it, while they covered him. So he will be getting his ear fixed soon. Dude, Trump's gonna be so badass the next time. I mean, just like, you can't deny he's gonna be one of the most badass politicians when he gets on stage next time with like a white bandage on his ear. There was a report, I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently he went golfing on Sunday, and one of the people that was what do you call it, the caddies or something, that drive the golf court or something, he said Trump took a golf shot, and I heard him say, "Unlike the shooter, I don't miss." I don't know if that's a true story or not. It was going viral on Reddit. But if he said that shit, dude, that would be pretty epic. See, it's similar to, he's going to have some public moments very similar to Reagan after Reagan got shot, because Reagan just made a joke out of it every time he was in public. At one point, there was a balloon that popped during one of his speeches, and you guys got to see this moment. I saw this for the first time this weekend. So there's a 30-second clip. This is a couple years post shooting. 6 years later, this is how Reagan reacted to a loud sound during a speech.
By its very existence and character, Berlin remains the most compelling argument for an open world. We're reminded of the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city. America missed me.
Dude, come on. Don't tell me that's not the most badass shit. I've like Trump has a couple moments like that over the next couple of weeks. Palantir 2875. I don't know, man. I think a lot of people are gonna be like, this mother effer is cool. Is really cool. There's another clip I got to show you guys. There's a comedian went viral because he incorporated the whole Trump getting shot thing into his routine. And it was hilarious. It was basically like Trump is now black because he got shot. It was one of the most hilarious things ever. So I'll try to find that. But like, there's just so many ways that more people are starting to get friendlier towards this entire concept. Thankfully, given it wasn't fatal. Palantir right here, 2871. So we're trying to get to an all-time high on Palantir. We got to an all-time, well, not an all-time high, 52-week high, but still in that 2870 level. And then Robinhood right here at 2375. Okay, here's the comedy clip. I thought this was hilarious. A 1-minute clip. I think you guys will enjoy this one.
That's running. Trump. He got shot, dog. They shot him. This nigga done been shot. This nigga done went to jail. He done scammed people. And this nigga my uncle? Who the fuck? Who the hell? He black. He's officially black now, bro. This is beautiful. They shot him. He was like, yeah, I'm having a fight. He was fine. He was doing like this and walked out with an American flag on him. Like this. He put one of these, like, I'm a real nigga. Fuck, nigga, I'm out of here. That's hard, bro. I wasn't even finna vote. I'm voting now, dog. He got it. He won. I wasn't even finna vote. I had no skin in the game. I like, that nigga got shot. He won. Fuck the bullshit. He had real ops, nigga. What the fuck? Joe Biden biggest op is the stairs. That's it. He had real ops. Somebody really tried to listen. That's how you know he a real nigga, bro. Joe Biden has been trying to kill himself his whole presidency. So nobody had to kill this nigga. Nobody had to try to kill it. Trump been just ready to go his whole time. And like, we got to fucking off his ass. And missed. And just skipped his ear and missed. That's crazy, bro.
So I thought that was hilarious, dude. Like whether you're left or right, I mean, you can come together and be like, that's pretty funny. And more moments like that, Robin at 2375, probably going to be good for Trump. Tesla right here, 264. Look at that. Look at that. Look at Tesla, 264 on the day. Oh my God. Tesla surging up 6% on the day. Where's Palantir? Palantir 2862. Celsius down 12%. Celsius taking an absolute beating today. I can't believe it's the Wall Street Journal article, dude. If someone can find something else, let me know, because it's hard to believe the Wall Street Journal tanked Celsius. Is Monster down? Monster's down 1%. Celsius is down. Well, I don't know. I guess all the energy drinks taking a little bit of a hit. SoFi 725, Robin at 2375, DJT up 35%, up another 1%, IWM 1.4, and then Tesla 264. Maybe Tesla tries to regain that 268, 270 level, which would be exciting for Tesla. Let me check the wall on Tesla. So we got Tesla, the wall on Tesla. There's a small wall at 265 with about, if I'm reading this right, it might not be that small. I think it's actually kind of at 265. There are 91,000 shares. So it's not super small, but definitely not impossible. Then at 270, there's about 400,000 shares. And then at 275, there's 800,000 shares. So, I mean, you got to get through that first 265 level to get to even have a chance at 270. So if we break 265, I think that's the level we're looking at. That would be an exciting day for Tesla, and that would be a good close for Tesla. So let's see what's going to happen. Crossroads says, what I'm seeing is a pricing war on energy drinks, at least here in Houston. I would imagine, yeah, if it's in Houston, I would imagine across the entire country, there's a little bit of a pricing war in regards to energy drinks, especially if Celsius's sales are down. Remember, the problem with Celsius always has been they are worth 12 billion market cap. Monster is at 49 billion. So Celsius currently is worth 24% of Monster's market cap, and they do not make, I believe, even close to 24% of Monster's revenue or their earnings per share. So like, it's always been the growth justifies paying more for Celsius. At one point, Celsius was $100. It was half of Monster's market cap. And it's obviously corrected. Now, the question is, does the market feel that growth has no chance to come back, or can it stabilize at some higher levels than what the perception is it'll be the next quarter? And if not, then that's why this one's a little scary buying the dip on. This thing could take a little bit of a dip. Mind you, it's also up 4,000% since 2020. So it's not like Celsius is not, growing at all. It's just now a lot of people are interested in it, but it's already grown since 2024 or since 2020 a lot. Hims is up 5%, 2285. Robin at 2370. And then Palantir 28.47. All right, so Palantir taking a little bit of a beating from that 28.79 level right back down to 28.46. Google, even though they're looking to acquire this company for $23 billion, they're up 1%. Netflix 662 is up 2%, and then Apple 234. What do you guys think in the chat? Netflix goes up or down on earnings? What do you think? Does Netflix go up or down? I think it goes down, so it'll probably go up, but I just don't think the street's going to be that excited to increase in more than 50% year to date, along with the subscriber numbers not being as explicit as they were in the past. Granted, it might be a buying opportunity if it comes back down again, but also here's the reason it might not take that big of a dip. It already dropped 20% on the last earnings. It dropped to 540. So if we already saw it take a hit off of like numbers that were pretty good, even if the numbers aren't amazing this quarter, maybe it just stays flat or it goes a little higher, but it doesn't take like a nasty drop. So if it does go down, I will say, I don't think it drops to the point where we're looking at the mid 540s again, especially with the rate cut coming up. Maybe it takes a little bit of a dip, but not that huge of a dip, or we just go higher by 1 to 5%. SoFi is officially up 4.5%, 730 on SoFi. Let's take a look at those options I got from my sister. Thankfully, I did not sell them last week when SoFi had bottomed out. So last week they were worth 4,500. Today they are worth 7,700. So nice $2,500 gain in a week. And again, those are 7/12 debit spreads. So on the strikes. So if SoFi actually goes to 12 by the end of the year, this contract would be worth about $25,000 in January. But you know, I don't know if SoFi gets there. Now, if we get to like 8.5 on earnings, we're looking closer to about 10,000 in gains on that one. So that's kind of, I mean, the strategy I have is sell after earnings if it has a good pop and take the profits there. Wow, SoFi 732, not bad. But here's the difficult part now. If SoFi has a good earnings and we get a rate cut, I mean, is $12 ridiculous? Is it actually ridiculous? Like, I mean, I know we've all been shitting on SoFi and for good reason. You know, we haven't just been shitting on SoFi to shit on it. It's had some management issues. We've had CTO sell a third of his stake. Like, there have been pseudo red flags that are bad. But at the end of the day, Noto said it very clearly. If the macro clears up, SoFi should be able to have momentum. And so is $12 by the end of the year that crazy on SoFi? Is $10 that crazy? I don't know. If you value it on price to book, yes, it's deeply overvalued even at $10 to $12, no matter how large the growth gets. But if you start valuing it a little differently, some of the parts valuation, maybe we get SoFi closer to $10. Management issues, not from Noto. Well, no, two things on management issues. One, Noto, he just is not that exciting on the last earnings. I think everyone, even some of the biggest SoFi bulls, are like, why is Noto not pounding the table? Why is he not like really explaining the mission of SoFi? I think that was one of the issues. And number two is the president, Chad, he left. And then the CTO sold a third of his stake, which Jeremy Rischel, which is just annoying to see kind of how that played out, along with the lack of clarity on Galileo. So I think that's been kind of the management issues. But if all that changes and we get a rate cut, maybe that gets excited. HIMS is up almost 7%, 6.5%. Robinhood 7%, 23.83. Coinbase 236. S&P 562. Palantir 28.60, back from 28.49. And then TNA, look at that, up 5%. Should have got those damn options on TNA. I shouldn't have been greedy. I wanted a really aggressive bid. I should have just like filled the ask. We probably would have been up like 70% on those if we did that. Not bad for TNA. And then NVIDIA, even though it's green, it's a little flat, but it's green. Tesla right here at 263, trying to get to 264. Oh, here we go. So TD Cohen changed their Celsius target from 85 to 68. Okay. So there you go. That's where we got a downgrade on Celsius that was pretty meaningful. And that's why Celsius is taking this 11% hit. So it makes sense. It was a downgrade, not just the Wall Street Journal article. So that's why Celsius is down. Patrick says the convertible debt wasn't received very well either for SoFi. Yeah, I agree. And Noto, unfortunately, he went on Cramer's show and it didn't sound like he actually was explaining to the average investor why this convertible debt thing happened. I think Noto, honestly, SoFi should do more personal videos. Like, they should just get a studio inside of their office and like have nice cameras and have Noto just talk to the camera and say, hey guys, so you might have seen some news in the media about what we've done. Here's why we did it. And here's why it helps you as a SoFi shareholder for the long term, right? Like there's a way I think you do it that's more connecting than going on Kramer. And then Kramer got bearish on SoFi, which maybe helped SoFi, but Kramer started acting like SoFi was a joke a week ago. And maybe that was the catalyst SoFi needed. But even Kramer didn't reciprocate the love after he went on the show and tried to explain it. So had a lot of things that just didn't go in their direction, but maybe things are changing now. All right, let's get back to Larry Fink and see what he's saying.
Point out the global infrastructure partners, what this acquisition meant. After you came on Mad Money, I did a lot of work on these guys. This is the number one fund if you believe in infrastructure, but also higher yield. This is a great opportunity.
It's unbelievable.
And I wish you could just talk about how this is something that is the future, because we all know infrastructure is the way to go.
So I believe the need for infrastructure worldwide is great. The need for investors to look at this as an asset class we're talking about doesn't have the risk of of private equity. It is less risky than most equity, but it has a higher return than most fixed income, and it has inflation protected. And in most high quality infrastructure investments, you're going to earn low double-digit returns, 11 to 15%, 20-year type of long duration maturities. So it's perfect for any retiree. And we announced this Preqin transaction whereby we are going to find ways to democratize private markets like infrastructure so more retail investors can invest in it. We, with our Aladdin system, which is the biggest investment system in the world, alongside our platform that we have for private markets with eFront, and now with the Preqin acquisition, it is our desire to build better data and analytics and then benchmarking privates. And so all investors can take advantage of infrastructure investing, can take advantage of more things and be a part of it. We saw a revolution in ETFs. When we bought iShares had just over $300 billion in ETFs. Today we're crossing $4 trillion. Okay, that's in 14 years, 15 years, so I believe if we could create the same type of indexation data and analytics, we're going to be able to create ETFs in private markets. But importantly, we're going to be able to create more transparency. And so all of our investors, every individual can be a part of this great, wonderful opportunity to invest in infrastructure in America, to make our country strong, vibrant, and the power of growth in the future.
That's interesting. Larry Fink's had this kind of tokenization, digitization of private assets and also things like infrastructure for a long time. He's had this idea. BlackRock's wanted to do this for a while. I think it's a positive for the capital markets. I mean, you get more liquidity and you create these kind of secondary markets on things that historically haven't been able to be traded and have only been reserved for certain classes of investors. We're also seeing this with platforms like Polygon and or Polymarket and Kalashi. These platforms that allow you to bet on anything. I'm sure you guys have seen kind of how these play out. This is one that I know, Kalashi. We actually might have the founder of this one come on the show in the next couple of weeks because I actually know the founder of this. But you can literally bet on it. Like, look at this. Our Fed funds rate in September lower or higher? You can bet on that. Bitcoin price today, you can bet on that. Highest temperature in New York City today. That's something really obscure, right? $93 to $94 degrees. You can bet on that. The number of hurricanes this year. There's all these different things you can bet on, and these secondary markets that are forming, they are allowing liquidity to exist with anything. And if you think about a market, what is a market? It's a bidder and an ask. It's someone who bids, someone who asks, right? Someone who can create an exchange around an idea or an asset or an equity, whatever it may be, and bid against different prices. And so if we think of that at its logical extreme level over the next decade, if BlackRock and all these other asset managers are able to commoditize trading on almost anything, there is a lot of money that is going to be flowing into the markets and a lot of people engaging in markets as well. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. And as Drew says, America's a gambling nation. People love to gamble as well. So another catalyst is that if you like gambling, then there's also different avenues where you can allocate capital. I mean, we're seeing it in the sports betting market as well. By the way, speaking of sports betting, DraftKings, this stock, 39.31, I think they have a strong earnings. They've been hammered for the better part of the year, even though they're growing 80%. They did an acquisition of a company for $700 million. They're not profitable yet, but I think they're on the way to get to profitability. I think if they crush this earnings, the market's finally going to give them some love. But most people think this is, close to a $55 stock, and this one has just been held down through a variety of different things that have happened. But we'll see if they can put up a strong earnings as well. People want to call GameStop a degenerate stock, but that is a whole nother level of degenerate gambling. Yeah, I mean, it's true. And by the way, a Schwab invested in Kalashi, right? Charles Schwab himself, because even he thinks, the overall conclusion of the nature of how we bet in markets is going to be through betting on anything. And if you can make a market for anything, then there's going to be liquidity. There's going to be people that want to bet, and there's going to be fund managers like BlackRock that can benefit off of that betting. Robinhood 23.82 up 6.89%. I would imagine Robinhood one day maybe wants to get into that market as well. This like secondary market where you can bet on events. It's just Robinhood's so regulated. I think they're trying to just steer clear of any of those issues. So we'll see what happens with them in the future. But that company, they did acquire Pluto. I would imagine they're getting ready to announce some new AI systems in the coming months. Also, Robinhood launched a new podcast last week, and on the market close on Friday, one of the hosts of the podcast during the live stream, when asked when is the new Robinhood web trading platform coming out, he just smiled and he said it's really cool and it's coming out very soon. So I would imagine on earnings or slightly after earnings, we're going to get that new web version of Robinhood, and that could be a catalyst for gold subscribers as well, which can lead to more growth. And so we'll see what happens. ELF is down 5%. Yeah, I'm not sure why ELF is down. ELF, if anything, like the basic analysis here is that ELF has had a hell of a year. I mean, it went from 130 to 201. So I would imagine people take some profits on a day where small caps are down, but small caps aren't down. The IWM is up. So it's kind of weird that ELF is down, especially if ELF is like, I think, a top 10 holding in IWM. So that is a little weird. I'm assuming there's some downgrade or something that happened, which is why ELF is down. Palantir 28.69, still trying to get above that 28.75 level and then make our way to 28.80. Let's see if we can do that. There is a shot we hit 29, dude. The resistance really isn't there, but you need a lot of the volume to come in for that to play out. And then Robinhood right here at 23.85 on the day. If you type in Robinhood on YouTube, like type in Robinhood channel, their actual like YouTube channel launched a podcast. So like they have like Robinhood like employees doing the podcast, and on that podcast is where they said this news. Okay, let's go back to Fink. I think we're coming to the end of his interview.
We've talked a lot about your shareholder letter about retirement crisis in this country. Yeah. The risk appetite you're talking about and the opportunities, is that as satisfying, or is that going in the right direction?
Gosh, Carl, we've had, I think we had when we started 14 companies that are going to be on LifePath Paycheck. We are having more amazing conversations. As I said, I think in the last quarter, I think LifePath Paycheck basically annuitizing the back end of the payment. So instead of getting a lump sum as a retiree, you're getting a monthly paycheck. By doing that, I think it gives more hope. And so I actually believe it'll become the dominant form of IRAs in America in the next 10 years. And I'm willing to put my reputation on it. The dominant form for a defined contribution for 401k investing. I believe it will transform it. It lifts up hope. It gives people more certainty, and that's what we need.
I think that people have to understand when you're talking about individual investment, this is great. Now, I don't mean to give you a hard time, but I think it's just a big mistake. But I did immediately go into to your company, and I said, look, I want to put money in global infrastructure because I think it's really right. And they informed me, listen, it's not a retail product, and I accepted that.
Not at the moment, but it will.
But it sounds like that is very exciting to people. Now, also what you talked about, IRA, this is something where you have said over and over again, we want that current generation to feel like they can be wealthier in the future. This is something they can put $6,500 right now if they are in a job. This would be remarkable in terms of the compounding factor with some of the products you have.
But we got the 28.8 on Palantir. We got the 28.8 on Palantir.
More and more people do that, think about the amount of money that's going to go into our capital markets. And that is the differentiation thing about America. When I go around the world, everybody just marvels at our capital markets. No country in the world has our capital markets. We have the strongest banking system in the world, and we have the strongest capital markets in the world. No country in the world has it. This is where, getting back to politics, both of our political candidates need to embrace this. We need to embrace the capital markets, our banking system. We need to be growing there, provide capital to small and medium business, provide capital to our large capitalized companies.
All right, let's see Palantir. 2884, 2.7%. Fink basically said we need to give capital to more businesses, we need to decrease spending, and we need to let capital markets continue to thrive. I would agree with that. And in order for that to thrive, people have to think there's a chance to succeed in the capital markets. And that's one of the things that, hopefully a exciting market inspires. Also, it's one of the things that potentially the market is thinking that the Trump presidency could inspire if he comes back and has business-friendly policies. Where's Robinhood? Robinhood 23.93. It would be awesome if Palantir and Robinhood both. Robinhood gets to 24, Palantir gets to 29 at the same time. That would be awesome, dude. That would be awesome. So Robinhood, it wants 24. It's going to fight. Let me see what the resistance is on Robinhood for 24. Let's see. There are 24,000 shares. Okay, that's not too crazy. That's, if there's enough volume, we should get through that. And then on Palantir, we're looking at 29. We're looking at 23,000 shares at 29. Basically the same. They both have the same resistance at that next level. There's still 17,000 shares at 28.85. That's why it's getting rejected right at that level. But there's a shot. There is a shot. Let's see. Bitcoin 63. That's holding up. Tesla cannot get above 264. As you can see, there's a nice wall at that 264, 265 range that's hurting it. So you're going to need a whale to come in and buy some shares there, or like hedge funds to get a little bit more bullish there. Salesforce is up. Broadcom is up post-split. Not a big jump because it's up already a lot, but it is green. TFC, $40, almost 41. JetBlue, not bad. JetBlue's up 5%. SoFi, 729, up 5%. And then Robinhood, 23.94 on the day. Palantir, 28.82. Okay, let me know. Now I can see the chat a little bit more, and I can talk to you guys. Where were you guys when this whole Trump thing broke out over the weekend? I can read the comments now. Where were you guys? What were you doing? Were you with family? Were you by yourself? The people who are not in the United States, the European countries, kind of how did your media react to it? I'm always curious to see how international media kind of reacts to it. I don't remember. How do you not remember, bro? You're drinking too much Celsius. That's messing up your memory. It was literally 2 days ago. In Paris, I didn't hear till the next day. Rob, Palantir right here, 28.91. Palantir, 28.91, baby. 9 cents. Let's see. It was crazy in Korea. You were ordering a pizza. Was watching Twist when Ansem pulled the news up on the stream. I was homesick with COVID. You know, funny enough, I was talking to another one of my friends this week who had COVID as well. So hopefully you feel better, Altal. But yeah, some people are getting it. 28.92 on Palantir. I was cooking braised short ribs. I've found a TikTok creator recently who like cooks a lot of stuff on the grill, and I can't stop binging their videos, dude. It's like it's so relaxing. I need to like become a cook, dude. Like it's just so cool when you make something from scratch. I can make pasta. I can make scrambled eggs, but I need to learn a little bit more. 28.95 on Palantir. We got 6 cents left to see if we can break that $29 level. You open Twitter in the morning. I was watching Olin Pod, and when it was over, the next YouTube autoplay was covering it. I wonder what the Olin Pod's going to say about this situation. Davis says, bro, I was driving in the middle of the desert with my tortoise. My friend, dude, Davis, For those that don't know Davis, he is a very unique individual. But yeah, he has a pet tortoise, and he posted a picture with it over the weekend. I like it. I like the quirkiness. It's very cool. And I'm quirky, but I'm not quirky enough to have a pet tortoise. I can't even say that. The turtle. Like I'm not that quirky. Namir says he was on the hub. I imagine a bunch of people were on the hub. Rodney says you'll have to buy a share. If we get to 28.98, I've got my one share loaded. Let's get to 28.98 and we do the one share. Let's get to 28.98 and let's see. Can you say turquoise again? What? How did I say that wrong? It's turquoise. Right? That's how you fucking say it, right? How do you say turquoise? It's fucking. Am I saying this wrong? 28.97. Don't let me focus on pronunciation. I need to focus on Palantir. Oh my gosh. 28.90 at 28.98. I'm pulling the trigger. I have it loaded on Robinhood. I'm pulling the trigger. 28.98. 28.98. Let me see. Where's the? Do we have a lot of resistance there? We have. Okay, at 28.98, there's 5,000 shares. At 28.99, there's 2,000 shares. At 29, there's 31,000 shares. So call it 40,000 shares-ish we need to get through to break this. Dude, if we break fucking $29 today, bro, I mean, talk about a run, bro. 28.99. I just did it. You can see right here. Where did we get executed? 28.97. Okay, so it was executed at 28.97. That's the one share. Do we see 29 today, bro? Do we see 29? I don't see it yet. Oh my God. There's only 20,000 shares. That's it. And then we break through. There we go. We got 29. Wow. Okay, now I can figure out how to say turquoise. How the fuck you say it? How do you say turquoise? I don't even know how to spell it, bro. Turquoise. Wow, 29, folks. We got to fucking 29. All right, let's hear this real quick, then we'll get back to this. How do you say it?
Tortoise.
Oh, wait a second. That makes sense. The hare and the tortoise. Oh.
Tortoise.
Now I realize. You guys think I'm trolling? I wish on my life I was trolling. I really wish I was trolling. I thought it was turquoise, bro. I'm sorry. It is what it is. It's like, you think I'm trolling? I really wish this was an act. This was like a fun little. It's not trolling. 28.96. So we touched 29. Now the resistance up to 29. Dude, we're gonna get back to 29. We're like a couple thousand shares away. I think we get back to 29. I think we get back. As long as no one sell, dude. Don't fucking like I said. Do we have to do another 2,000 videos for the next couple years to tell you it's a generational company? Just let this thing fucking run. 28.96, 28.97. I'm assuming some people that bought in at like 24, 25, they're probably taking profits right now. But I think we break back above 29. We're close. Dude, I should have known it was tortoise or tortoise. I should have known the hare and the tortoise. I've like everyone's heard that story, right? The hare and the tortoise. I fucking called it turquoise, bro. I don't know. It is what it is, dude. I talk for a living, but there's some things I don't know how to say. It is what it is. Palantir 29. There we go, baby. I think we hold 29, bro. I think we start making the next leg up to the 30s. I don't think we get to 30 today, but I think we hold 29 at least for a little bit. I don't think we just fall back to 28.6. We would have seen a red candle by now. Yeah, Chris's Iron Condor is not doing that well at the moment. 3% up on the day. 29 Dolores on Palantir. Goodness gracious. Who thinks we hold 29? Who thinks we dump? I think we maybe dump later in the day, but if we dump, it's like to 28.50. But I think we get above 29. It's going to be hard, though, because people are going to have to start really bidding at 29, which is just a lot, not just on a fundamental basis on how Palantir is valued, but people have to get normalized paying $29 a share. Maybe that doesn't happen today, you know? Yeah, Global Equities Research did raise their Tesla price target to 400. I saw that. I don't know if that's the biggest reason they're up today, but that is one of the reasons why they're probably up. Tesla, Robinhood 2381. Tesla is at 263. Tesla 263 right now. Oh, Davis, it's your birthday? Oh, man. Wish everyone happy birthday to Davis in the chat. Shout out to you, Davis. Davis is actually a good friend of mine that I met in Vegas about a year ago. For anyone who wants to see his tortoise, this is you guys thought I was kidding. He has a pet tortoise, and so he's again, dude. I'm a quirky guy. I'm not this quirky of a guy to have a pet tortoise, but he does. So shout out to Davis. Happy birthday to you, man. He has a lot of Palantir. We became friends because of Palantir. So Palantir right here, 29. You know, I think the greatest thing Palantir will give me by the end of my life, outside of the juicy gains, is the friendships, because Palantir has been the catalyst for me to meet so many people that I care about in my life. And really, those are priceless, dude. Like, lifelong friendships are priceless. So, yeah, so it's really exciting stuff on Palantir, and hopefully, we just keep surging higher over the next decade and we make more friends. My wife has 8 tortoises as pets. Wow, that is interesting. Palantir 2905. Let's see if people get accustomed to buying it over 29 and above this $29 level. How did he say lifelong already? Dude, Davis is a lifelong friend. Like, Namir, just don't be jealous that you don't have any lifelong friends, okay? Namir doesn't have any Palantir, to my understanding. He's stuck in the Tesla world, which is great. You can enjoy your Tesla. But look, the Tesla story is exciting. It's whatever, but the story is like kind of old. I mean, like, it's, yeah, the FSD, the robot, whatever. Palantir is fresh, okay? That story is sub 100 billion. Tesla's pushing $1 trillion. So I'm not saying the Tesla story is done. I'm just saying, in the context of creating friendships and relationships, I think Palantir is just beginning. So you don't have to be jealous that you don't have any Palantir. Chris says, I just bought 25 Palantir friendships. Did you introduce them to your parents? Oh my God. Wow, Palantir is really holding 29, bro. Really holding 29. Oh my gosh, dude. Now it's hard for me to say tortoise if I've been saying turquoise, guys. So I feel like it's like plethora. It's just going to constantly be the way I've said it. All right, what else we got? Palantir at 29, Celsius still down 10%, SoFi 4.3, Robinhood 23.84. Now we need Robinhood to get to 24. We get a Robinhood to 24, a Palantir to 29. That would be a hell of a day. It's pretty crazy, dude. I mean, I would probably be more hype and excited of Palantir going to 29, but like, because we've been steadily growing every day, every week, I'm kind of just like, all right, like, it kind of felt like we were gearing up for 29, given the momentum we saw over the past couple of days in the high 28s every time we closed in the 2790s, then rose to the 2815s, then we came back, then we closed at 2850. Like, it kind of felt like, all right, it was getting ready to maybe break out to 29. And now I'm starting to feel like the street just feels something's going to happen with Palantir. I mean, either this thing catastrophically falls back down to 22, which I wouldn't mind. It would just be a question of why it's falling that much, or the era of the low 20s is done for Palantir. We are in the roaring 20s, and the low 20s was over, which will be very exciting for Palantir. I mean, dude, if we get to 35 by the end of the year, like, again, I feel like that's asking for a lot, but if they put up the growth, even 29, I would, like, my price target at the beginning of the year was 23 to 25. I did a podcast with Adam in January, and both of us, this one Palantir was 16. We were like, from 16 to 25, that's up 50%. That's not crazy. We were like, that's if anything, that's a little aggressive, trying to ask for a 50% year. If we end up with a 100% year, I mean, dude, it would be quite a year for Palantir. How are you checking the number of shares that are priced for Palantir? If you look at the order book flow and the order book volume, you'll see the shares and where they are and how they're trading. Okay, let's play a clip as well by Karp. We posted a clip on Palantir Daily of him discussing a little bit more about why you need an ontology. And again, maybe Wall Street's finally listening to some of the stuff that he's saying right now.
Because in order to actually make AI work.
Oh, didn't I play this on Friday? I did play this on Friday. I realized I played this on Friday because the audio sucked. Let me play a different clip I was going to play. Yeah, the audio was horrible on this one. That's not our fault. That's the video's fault. Here's a better one. This one, the audio is still not the best, but this is still a good one. This is about competition and Karp.
currently, I don't believe we have competition. We have a lot of people who are like the Palantir of Iowa or the Palantir of Harvard or the Palantir of Uruguay, but they're not Palantir. And it's going to take a long time to actually build what we have, because you'd have to actually understand what is special about the software infrastructure of having the combination of Apollo, Foundry, and the ontology. And then you would have to build on top of it so that you can actually do these handoff functions with large language models. And luckily for us, there is not a consensus at the investor level, VC level, or among analysts that we have the only thing that works.
Let me get one with better audio. I don't know why the audio keeps messing up on these, but the core point he's making is that it's about the time Palantir took to actually build out these models, or to build out the infrastructure to make the models conducive to actual value. 2908. I'm surprised you guys couldn't hear it at all. That's bad on StreamYard's part, dude. Like, I know the audio and the video is bad, but they should be able to like at least somewhat play it. I'll get the better version of it. But the core point is, I mean, he's talking about competition, and his core argument in the context of competition is that Palantir is just, they have no competition because they've spent so long building what they've built. Is he grandstanding a little bit? Sure. But when you start to see, some of the deals they're getting, it makes you feel, hey, these guys are getting a lot bigger and better deals than everybody else because of their moat and what they're doing. Robinhood right here, 23.98. Let's see if Robinhood cracks 24. I think we get above 24 on Robinhood. I think there's a shot. Palantir now decisively going over $29, $29.10, up 3.66% on the day. Robinhood right here at 23.94. Robinhood's got to fight a little bit, but if it can fight in the correct way, we should see above 24 bucks. Okay, so let's get to this clip. This is actually a better clip right here. So AIP and boot camps, we're going to want to see a lot more conversion on AIP and boot camps. And so if Karp's right about kind of his core thesis about go-to-market, we should see some more momentum in that part of conversion.
It's almost inconceivable to do that many contracts given the way our product used to be. And so what you see is a convergence of our product being easier to use, an augmentation of its charisma, both driven by developments in AI, large language models, which make the product approachable, Foundry, to the broader market. You also see just this enormous demand and our ability to meet that demand with a new piloting approach that we call boot camp. So we went 2 years ago, we did 92 pilots. And last year, really mostly the second half of the year, we did over 500 boot camps. I go around the country now telling CEOs, CTOs, and really whoever has $1 million to buy our product and transform their enterprise, take everything you've done in AI since you started, put your best people on it, and we're going to show up at any time you want, and we're going to run your data at a boot camp for 10 hours. And then you compare your self-pleasuring to our operationally relevant, commercially valuable, critical to your enterprise results. Our 10 hours, your 10 months. Any products you want, any vendor you want, any hyperscaler you want, you pick them, we'll show up.
Again, maybe that confidence is getting to the point where the street just realizes they're not fucking around. Robin at 23.89. Wow. Palantir hit 29.15 at one point, 29.12. Dude, it's decisively holding 29, bro. It is decisively holding fucking 29. This is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. 29.12, 29.11 on Palantir right now. Let's see, what else do we have? Let me pull up a couple of pieces of news. The judge dismissing that classified documents case, that's still a big deal. A lot of news outlets reporting on that right now. We have the Larry Fink interview. Where's the Bitcoin? Where's Bitcoin? Where is Bitcoin? Bitcoin 63.1. All right. So we're above that. That means Coinbase should probably be doing well. Yep. Coinbase 242 up 11%. MicroStrategy should be up 5, probably 10%. Yeah. MicroStrategy up 13%. And Palantir holding 29.13. Dude, it's so wild because fucking Chris really thought he got a good short. He was like, Palantir won't be above 26 by January. Like that's essentially his like short argument. And fundamentally, just from like a valuation perspective, you could like if Palantir ended at 26 in January, that would still be up 70% or 65% year over year. Let's say it would still be an amazing return, but he would still make money because it's just below his strike. But even now, he's not able to like get liquid on his short because he's being liquidated on his short actually because it's above 26. And you would think like reasonably you could imagine, okay, even though Palantir theoretically in his eyes is not worth 26, he has the range to support at least being at 26 for him not to get liquidated. And it's not even giving him that level. It's like just surging past 29, which is exciting. Very, very exciting. Amid Palantir 29.22 is a key level from technical analysis perspective. Haven't seen that level since September 2021. Yeah, let's see. Last time we were at 29 on Palantir, it was, basically September 2021. This is when Drake put out Certified Lover Boy. If anyone follows Drake, that album was not that good of an album. But this is when 29.18 on Palantir. So right when the bubble was getting popped in 2021 and we collapsed all the way to 584, that's the last time we got these levels. And now we're back 3 years later. It's a 6x. I mean, it's close to a 6x from the lows of 580, now trying to touch 30. So it's not bad at all. Robinhood opening in Canada? No way. No, is that why it's up? Oh, no way, dude. No stress. You're usually right on the news. Did they announce it? No fucking way, dude. If they announce they're opening in Canada, holy crap. Robinhood Canada. Are they actually doing it, dude? Are they doing it? Where's I got to see the news on that. That would be huge. That would explain why we're getting some momentum. I mean, the street would definitely love that. Let's see. I can't find the news yet. Do you have the link? Who has the link? I don't know if the app is launching, but they are opening a location. Okay, that's probably not the same thing. They've always had a location in Canada. They've always had a Toronto location because they hire employees there. So, yeah, okay. So at least we know that's not the reason why the stock is up today. That can't be the reason. Yeah, they've no stress. They've always had a location in Canada. They hire engineers there all the time in Toronto. So no app yet in Canada, but if that happened, dude, that would explain 7%. I don't know why it's up 7% outside of Bitcoin, but the Canada news would definitely explain if it was up. You had all the Canadians in the chat that were so excited. Look at Kelly. She was so excited. Dude, all the Canadians were ready to. If they get to Canada, there's going to be so much momentum there because people love Robin and they want to. There's so many Canadians that always ask me when we're coming to Canada. But, you know, Trudeau has way too many regulations, I think, to let them easily get there. It'll just take some time. 29.20 on Palantir. So we're up a solid 4% of the day. Look at Bitcoin, 63.1. Robin at 23.86. Palantir, 29.20. Palantir is not stopping, bro. Palantir is not stopping. Palantir is not freaking stopping. It's because Vlad, Bob. Yeah, shout out to Vlad. So not the Vlad from Robinhood, but if you guys don't know, I put out this tweet. I should probably talk about this tweet that I put out over the weekend that I was responding to when the whole Trump news broke out. But Vlad, who is a friend of Derek, who is a friend of the channel, he's another whale of Palantir. He came onto the show on Friday and he bought 50,000 shares at $27.84. And then Palantir went to like 28.30. And I said he should buy 100,000 shares before he bought 50,000. Then in our group chat, he was like, damn it, I should have bought 100,000 shares. But he just casually bought 50,000 shares. So let's just do the math. He bought 50,000 at 27.84. So he spent 1.3 million. Currently, those 50,000 shares are worth 1.8. So he's up 72 grand in 24 hours, 48 hours. That's what happens when you have money, bro. You can just throw money at stuff and it goes up and you make more money. Like, I mean, 72 grand in a couple hours or a couple days is insane. Palantir right here, 29.30. It touched 29.28, but it's up 4.29% on the day. And again, I think not just people like Vlad, but other whales are wanting to get exposure. MicroStrategy up 13% to a software AI application like Palantir, and 50,000 shares to them is just not a lot of money, dude. Like 50,000 shares is like, all right, it's whatever. When you get to that level of life, and if we see more people like that get excited about Palantir, this is the thing I've been saying for a while. There is a cool factor to Palantir, and a lot of people, when it was $7 or $8, and we had there's these weird YouTubers that were just like making videos every day about like when the market was crashing, about like just like strongman personal finance, people like that who would use me in the thumbnail, put a clown emoji on my nose, all that stuff. Like all these people saying Palantir will never touch 20, it's a clown stock, all this stuff. At the time, it sounded smart at $7. What they didn't realize is that if there was enough interest for people to consume content around Palantir when it was $7, what do you think is going to happen when it 4x's and it goes to $28? It means the internal intrinsic level of interest that was in the company that the bears assumed was memeish at $7, whereas the bulls realized, no. That means people give a fuck. And by the way, really smart people give a fuck, which is all the early podcasts we were doing in 2022 of these people like Sachin and Sean and all these like, high level people who worked at Fortune 500 companies saying, we're buying Palantir at $7 because we see something that the market doesn't see. That level of interest has not gone away. And so now for Wall Street to buy the stock, and given that level of interest is there, that cool factor of Palantir is part of its moat, dude. It's just cool. And sometimes you get a little premium if you're a company, if you're a moat. If you get a premium of your company, if you have that as your moat. And Palantir, I mean, Tesla has it as well. Tesla, I know, is a whole different story, but Tesla is not really putting up the numbers to justify $800 billion market cap, but Tesla's cool. And there is a belief that Tesla's going to grow into this valuation because of how cool they are. And because they're working on cool shit. They're working on self-driving cars, robots. Like, this is just cool stuff at the end of the day that the market cares about. Robinhood hit 24 for a second. 23.88. Yeah, it's struggling to get up to 24, but we'll see if we get some more momentum. And if Bitcoin goes higher, that could definitely help. Getting to 24. Where is Chris today to update us about his short position? Well, he's definitely not in the chat. That's for sure. Not bad, dude. Palantir 29.19. Let me look at resistance now on Palantir. Next level of resistance is at 29.40. There's 10,000 shares, which is not that crazy. And then at $30, dude, even at 30, there's 54,000 shares. I don't know if we'll get the volume to get to 30, but it's not inconceivable that it happens. Now, will we fall back down immediately after that? Probably. But it's not crazy to think that could happen. If there was like 400,000 shares, I would say, yeah, that's just not happening. But I don't know, maybe it does. Wow, Palantir 29.20 still holding up that momentum. Let's listen to another carp clip that I wanted to pull up. Let me pull this one up here. Okay, here's a good one. Him talking about boot camps, and the energy in this clip is exciting. And again, this is probably another reason they're increasing their customer count, because they're actually deploying these boot camps in a way that gets customers to actually want to buy the product.
Clients happy because American industry knows that this is a structural advantage and it needs the best products. And why is the boot camp overrun? Because the clients themselves are tired of these damn steak dinners and the golf. They want to see products that actually work, that actually live up to what people are saying. What are people saying? You will transform your enterprise. You'll make it cheaper to run your enterprise. That you'll make it safer to run the enterprise. You'll be able to track what you're doing, and you'll be able to uplift workers who formerly only could be engineers, and now they can be everywhere. And by the way, you can do all of this in America. You can manufacture like you were manufacturing Japan and Taiwan in America. You can use workers that used to have to be engineers right here in this country. And why is it? It's also fun for Palantir because we are winning. Why are
Dude, that level of energy, I don't think it can be underrated, bro. That energy is just attractive. It's exciting. Is the growth at like 40, 50% year over year? No, but it doesn't really need to be when you've got that type of energy and investors are willing to give you time to get to that growth. Angela, thank you for becoming a channel member. Really appreciate that. Shout out to Angela. Thank you for becoming a channel member. But like that level of energy, dude, it's contagious. It's exciting. It gets people to care about your company. And I personally relate to this when I did debate. I think I told you guys the story. When I was in high school debate, I had more energy than a lot of other debaters that I went up against. And I wasn't always correct on the arguments. Sometimes I was wrong on the argument. Like I knew I was dead wrong. Like while the judge was making a decision, I was like, dude, I messed up here, here. I'm probably not going to win this debate. And then the judge would be like, well, I voted for Amit. And I could see my opponent's face. And he was just like one time my opponent ripped off his tie. Dude, he was like really upset. He was like, not happy. But the judge would be like, well, I just felt like Amit was more, convincing, perceptually dominant. And like, there are certain ways you can win without having to always be as accurate as the street maybe wants you to be in the context of quantitative, earning results. And so the AIP boot camps, they're scaling. Karp's excited about it. He's profusely explaining why that's so important. And I just think the street's willing to bet on that. S&P's at 564. Oh my God. Wow. New all-time high on the S&P. There you go. New all-time high on the S&P. So to put into some context, part of the reason we're seeing the rally probably in Palantir also is because everything is up today. Bitcoin's up, S&P is up, small caps are up, everything is up. So I would imagine Palantir breaks through as well. And if things take a tumble, Palantir can also take a tumble. But the fact that we're still crossing these levels is important. It is exciting. And now if we fall back to 2870, that's way better than falling back to 2550, right? So I think that's really important to keep in mind in the context of Palantir. So it's not bad. Not bad at all. Do you think HUD deserves the current price? 1,000%. Robinhood, in my opinion, deserves minimum. Remember, guys, they have $5 billion in cash. This market cap of $20 billion, the enterprise value is actually $15 billion. You're paying for $5 billion of cash out of a $20 billion market cap, which is generating them return on capital. And they have authorized $1 billion share buyback. So if this thing were to drop to 21 or 20 or 19, they would just unload and buy probably 50 to 100 million shares and easily save themselves from something getting worse. Along with that, every catalyst in the world is lining up for Robinhood. So I think Robinhood minimum 25 after earnings. That is my assumption. I think by the end of the year, we get to 25, if not closer to 30 on a more market run, S&P to 6,000 or potentially Bitcoin up to 80, 90,000. But I think Robinhood, deserves to be here. Now, granted, is today the best day to get entry? No, because it's up 7%. But from what we've seen over the past 3 weeks, Robinhood has not gone below 2170. So if you're looking for a range to buy, I think the low 22s has always been the range that I bought for me, my dad, my sister, my mom, like 2204, 22.5. That's when I buy. But I don't know if we get below 20. We sold 50 puts on it at 20, me and TJ. I'm assuming those puts are up right now a lot. And that low 22 range probably should be a range to buy. So 2380, probably not the best range to get in, but definitely I do think 25 is likely where it goes. MicroStrategy 1600. Okay. Wow. This thing hasn't been 1600 since let's look at the 1 year. Let's look at the 5 year on this. It hasn't been 1600 since February, or no, since April. Last time, well, no, it was there in May, or it got to 1575. April was when it was closer. It got to 1999 back in March. So around April was where it was back at. So it's at April levels, which is good. And if Bitcoin can keep showing momentum, it'll probably keep benefiting as well. Maybe Palantir is buying their stock. I don't think so. I think it's hard to imagine Palantir is buying their stock and deploying at buybacks right now. I mean, I'm pretty sure they even think that the stock's running a bit too far, so they probably wouldn't deploy in buybacks. They did buy back their shares at $24, only $9 million worth of it. But I think the people that are buying right now are the street, maybe some retail that doesn't know too much about Palantir, and those that have no exposure that are willing to DCA down from 29. So, I mean, those are the people that are buying at these news prices. And again, if you've been a shareholder for a long time, these prices are not the prices that are meant for you to buy. These are prices that are meant for new people to get in, and you get to hold on to your shares because you did the smart thing and invested before and got to these levels, right? If you want to average up, that's totally fine. But the broader point is new entrants come into the market as it's looking for price discovery. And if you bet before them, then obviously you get to have the benefit of staying there. Or you sell and get some profit. Yeah, that is also true. You can also sell and take some profit. Nike's pooping. Nike's been a bad story, dude. 72.38 down 1.42%. Even my grandpa, I saw him over the weekend and I asked him if he was selling puts on Nike, and he said he really thought about it, but he just thinks even him, who's not doing too much fundamental analysis, he's like, dude, I don't like Nike. I think I got a feeling they might even take a bigger dump. So I don't know. I imagine the put premiums are up there, but you got to ask yourself, is it worth playing with Nike? They haven't dropped below 63 since COVID, so I guess that's the real level to look at. But I don't know. You got to do some real due diligence and believe if sales growth is going to come back and if the brand is not in a horrible situation. Wow. Trump tells Fox News he's making his VP announcement today. Okay. That's a big deal. Pouncer right here at 29.17. Trump tells Fox News he's making his... Okay, so who do you think? Who do you think? That is interesting. I personally would like Vivek. I think that would be super fun. I don't think it'll be Vivek. I think JD Vance is up there potentially. I don't think it's going to be Mike Pence this time. I think it's probably not Mike Pence. Could it be Tulsi Gabbard? It is possible. I don't know. We're going to see. We're going to see. Pounty right here, 50 cent. Could you imagine, bro? 50 cent. Oh my God. Peter Thiel. Goodness gracious. I don't think it's going to be Vivek. I think the one thing about Trump is he's a little worried that Vivek is going to take the shine from him. And I don't blame him because Vivek is, he's a talker. And so I don't know. We'll see. Let's go to CNBC, but it'll be interesting to see. I think Vivek would be the smart choice because Vivek's loyal and he's gonna talk. And you need a VP to kind of be strong and really be able to get their message across.
The market slows down on the uncertainty, typically pulls back 4 to 5%, and then rallies regardless of which candidate won. Everybody talks about the famous Trump rally. If you overlay it on the butterfly of the historical rallies, it's not distinguishable. It's exactly what happened then. So I would be a little cautious there. And as Mike was just saying, I mean, a cyclical trade or the small caps is a rotation. I talked about earnings. I didn't bring up the election in there. So there's a lot of other reasons that argue for going in the same direction.
Finally, whether it's election cycle, monetary policy, or earnings growth, has the picture of U.S. versus Europe changed much in the last few weeks?
Not very much, no, I would say. We have plenty of uncertainties on the political side.
By the way, European markets were down today after the Trump news, after the Trump shooting, and American markets were up. And I saw an article that was kind of like, this is the hilarious nature of the European markets, is like they go down when something like this happens, whereas the American markets go up, right? Because they price it in a totally different way. Pouncer right here, 29.20, up 4% on the day. If we hold 29 for the day, this is all we can really be happy about. I mean, if we get closer to 29.50, that'd be incredible. It's going to be tough, but holding 29 is going to be important. And if the broader market's rallying, and we're seeing some momentum, Trump announcing his VP pick, if odds are that VP pick is even better than expected, and the markets say that, a Trump Vivek ticket or a Trump Vance ticket is definitely going to beat Biden Harris, then maybe the market surges even higher. This is why it's so important to analyze politics, because now if the odds get more in the favor of the president that the market wants to win, then markets potentially could reflect that and go higher. Now, here's a question for the chat. S&P at 564. Do you think this is too quick, too fast? And do you think we're getting ready for a short-term correction down 5 to 10% in August and September, but then we end the year closer to 58 to 6,000 on the S&P? What do you think? Do you think that theory of going back to like 515 and then surging to 6,000 by the end of the year is how this plays out? Pretty much everyone on Wall Street thinks that's how it's playing out. I mean, a lot of smart people think that's what happens. I don't know, dude. I kind of think that this market is so interesting and so exciting for money that hasn't really participated that we go higher. And I think the rate cuts are a tailwind. I think Bitcoin is a tailwind, and maybe the Trump presidency is also a tailwind. Bitcoin falling right now just a little bit. That's why Robinhood taking a little bit of a red candle there. Granted, valuations are getting up there, so people are going to want to take profits. But the question is, do they take profits to the point where we fall 10%? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. That would be normal. We are not in normal times. Yeah, that would be very normal. That's what happened last year, by the way. Remember 2023? We October, we bottomed in a nasty S&P, went to like 405, and then we surged all the way to like 478 by the end of the year in about 2 months. So it was a beautiful rally. It was a beautiful V-shaped recovery. I mean, let's just go to the S&P right here. If you look at the S&P on the 1 year, So right there, yeah, literally 404.9 on October 31st. So we were at 430, went to 404. In the summer, we were at 460. So we actually fell from 460 in the summer. And then simple V shape by November 14th, we had regained everything we had lost in that October drop. And then we surged all the way to 474. And then obviously this year has been a very strong year. The interesting thing again about this year is that the catalysts with the tailwinds of interest rates just lead to more momentum versus like a breather period. The S&P has not had a red day down 2% in over a year. And so the question is, when do the catalysts become so bad that it becomes like a sell the news event? It just hasn't happened yet. An inflation reaccelerating could charge that, but from all the data we're looking at, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Pounter 29.21 right now. And so we'll see. I kind of think we slowly go higher. I don't know if we have this massive 10% pullback, but obviously September is usually not the best month for the markets. That's where we could see a little bit of pain as well. The problem is the market is undoubtedly rather expensive, so you absolutely need earnings to keep impressing a lot. Yes, and I think that's emblematic of Palantir. Like Palantir right here, yes, obviously expensive at 29.22. Earnings is either going to justify this or it's going to show that there's no way, Palantir deserves this multiple. I just find it odd that Palantir is getting this multiple before earnings. Either that's retail FOMO or that's institutional investors thinking they know something that we don't. I kind of feel like it's the latter. I could be wrong, but maybe that's what's happening. And then the Mag 7, right? Like they've really got to put up numbers. Now, one of the reasons the market's also going up right now is because two banks showed that their checks on the Blackwell supply chains for NVIDIA, which is their next generation chip, is insinuating that there is way more demand than even they thought was happening. And so if that demand materializes in a realistic way, NVIDIA is going higher. Like it's going higher. And if it's going higher, ASML, Broadcom, all these guys follow with it. And so that momentum is probably going to be helping a lot more in the context of what we see with the markets. Earnings are going to get us to 6,000. I think they can. Definitely Q3 earnings. That's the other thing about after, we can't just close the markets, right? After Q2, we've got to crush, and then we got to crush Q3 just to finish off the year. SoFi, right, by the way, 552. So we really have to have a good year for the next 2 quarters to justify all this. But it kind of feels like there's a shot we'll do it. And the banks have so far showed that, they have the momentum to do it. Are you going to cover Powell? Is Powell talking today again? Powell's not talking today. Is he? Does he have a speech or something? I think we had his testimony last week. I don't think he has a speech. Not today. Yeah, I don't think it's today. Probably not today, unless I'm wrong. At noon? Okay, we're probably going to be gone before noon. He doesn't have the Jackson Hole thing today, right? That's in August. It's not today. Why is he speaking? What is he speaking in? Maybe an emergency rate cut. Could you imagine? Is today Jackson Hole? Today's not Jackson Hole for the Fed. What is Jerome Powell's speech today? What is he saying? He speaks on Monday. About what? What is he doing? Why is he speaking? What is he speaking, dude? I have no idea why he's speaking today. But I guess if he says something nice, then maybe we go even higher. Palantir 2907. Tesla 262, Robinhood 2369, Coinbase 242, Bitcoin 63.1, Celsius still down 10% of the day, and then SoFi here up 5%. S&P just incredible, dude. Could you imagine if we see 570 end of this week on S&P? He's speaking at the Economic Club of Washington. Okay, so this is not going to be an interesting speech, guys. He's not going to say anything it will quite literally be a nothing burger. I mean, everything he had to say, all the juicy stuff was at that testimony. He said labor market's tight. He said we shouldn't hold rates too high for too long. That's all the market needed. So now there's not more he needs to say to get the market excited about him. Thoughts on PayPal, impacts of rate cuts. I think PayPal's got to show more growth. Rate cuts will help them, but they've just got to show the growth. And I think they will. So I think the market is just discounting them for fears of competition that are more perception than reality. So I think PayPal does well. We'll see. But at the end of the year, I mean, if we get to 75, that'd be awesome. I don't think there's that much juice left to run on this one. It's being perceived as a value trap. But if they out surprise on growth estimates, maybe that one goes a bit higher. Let's see. What else? So we got the Trump news. The VP news is going to be important today. Maybe we get that during the market close and we'll be able to stream that live. So we'll see when that comes out. Oh, wow. Look at this. Sequoia is offering investors a chance to cash out of Stripe, the payments giant back nearly 14 years ago. The firm emailed their limited partners and funds raised between 2009 and 2011, proposing to buy up to $861 million of Stripe at $27.51 each, valuing Stripe at $70 billion. Wow. So Sequoia. So why is this important for the market? Sequoia, which was a VC that backed Stripe 10 years ago, they are willing to buy Stripe at a $70 billion valuation. They probably, bought Stripe at a Series A at 15, 20, 30 million. So they're willing to pay a lot more to buy up Stripe because they probably see a lot of growth in the IPO market. And that matters if we're trying to analyze if this is a bubble or not. If the market starts IPOing companies like Stripe, that means there is a lot of excess liquidity that investors are ready to give up. And that's where I start to get uncomfortable and at least start to think, all right, is there too much money in the system? But we haven't reached peak tech IPO season yet. And maybe that starts early 2025. But that's big. If Sequoia is willing to buy back shares, I mean, investors are going to get like a 1,000, 2,000x return if they take that deal. 70 billion versus whatever they bought it at in the low millions in 2009. I would imagine LPs take that deal and then Sequoia has more of a stake as Stripe goes public. I use Stripe and AWS. It's amazing. Yeah, Stripe and AWS. I mean, and this is what Galileo starts getting compared to in terms of SoFi. That is their core competitor in terms of B2B payments. Stripe did, I think, $1 trillion of payments last year in 2023, up 25% from the previous year. So Stripe doesn't look like they're slowing down. Probably $100 billion company on paper right now. So that's where I think Noto has to get the street excited, because if Stripe's worth $100 billion, I'm not saying SoFi needs to be, and the Galileo doesn't need to be worth $100 billion, but what if Galileo was worth $15 billion? Like SoFi's market cap is only $7 billion. So obviously the multiples could expand, but Galileo really has to prove that they have that level of growth. Tanner says, would you buy Stripe? Obviously the valuation matters, but do you care for the business model at all? Do you get excited? So personally, not really. I see them as a middleman, similar to Visa or American Express. Now, I'm sure they're more than that in terms of they're a bit more technology facing than just being a middleman. But it doesn't personally get me super excited. Definitely not at a $100 billion valuation, because I don't know if that's a bubble for fintech. I don't know if the VCs are using the private markets or public markets as deep liquidity. So maybe it's like a Reddit where Reddit IPOs and it just explodes. Have you looked at Reddit about it? $77 that IPO'd at 34. So Reddit's done well. But Reddit's valuation at 12 billion seems very reasonable to me, because they're about to be profitable. And, the multiple is not as expansive. For Stripe, I don't know their financials, so I don't know if 70 billion is a reasonable multiple or not. But based on more data, we'll see if, that one matters. But as of now, no, not super excited to buy Stripe. I would rather buy Square than Stripe. Square having a good day. I don't know. I just don't like Squares. I've never loved Square that much. And I probably just don't know enough about them. But I've never fully understood the company. I think I would buy Stripe before Square. But then again, Square is a lot more integrated of an ecosystem, and I just don't understand them that well. Now, if Stripe's profitable, which I don't think Square is profitable. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I don't think they're profitable. If Stripe was profitable, then it gets really exciting. 29.17 on Palantir. Because now you got a fintech that's actually net income positive. There are so many fintech companies out there, yes, but I think Stripe is the best one. Or I would say Stripe is one of the ones that's grown the most. Robinhood 23.83, Bitcoin 63, and then Palantir holding 29.17 on the day. Let's see what else we got. Okay, here's the Trump VP report. Here's just a bunch of updates on Trump. Let's see what's going on here.
Shutting down much of the illegal immigration at the border. And I think Most of that was through executive order and the Remain in Mexico policy that Joe Biden overturned immediately upon getting elected. And I think, I think that is an enormous detriment to Biden's campaign, is the open border crisis that we face. And so I do think that Donald Trump would be effective, again, at using executive authority to help close down the border. I think the deportation measures, would be harder to implement.
What about defense spending? Some people think that's an obvious target for winners when it comes to winners and losers under a Trump administration.
That's a great question, Sarah, because I'm not as confident in that. I do think that in the first administration, when I served as White House Director of Legislative Affairs, the very first bill, as far as funding the government, we wanted to rebuild the military after severe cuts during the Obama years. But I think that some of the people who were the biggest proponents of building up the defense are not going to be there in the second term. And so I'm not as confident there would be as much of an interest in investing as much in our defense as there was in the first administration.
Who do you think is going to be the VP pick? Fox was told today that's going to be made today. And do you think it has bearing on policy?
I do think it has some bearing on policy. I don't think that it's going to be as consequential as the first administration, Sarah. I think that this go around, President Trump feels very familiar with his relationships with Washington and is not looking for a vice president to facilitate that as much. My assumption has been that J.D. Vance has been in the front runner position for quite some time. But, I wonder about the events the last few days, because as the party looks to advance in a narrative of unity and bringing people together, he certainly, I think, you looked at the comments in the aftermath of the assassination attempt and was the most vocal of blaming the rhetoric from Democrats in this. And so I don't know if that impacts his decision or not, but I think that he's been in the driver's seat. And I certainly think I follow the same reporting that Burgum and Rubio are in the mix as well.
Finally, people are now looking at a post that the former president just wrote, in which he refers to, Mark, the January 6th hoax, the witch hunt, and whether or not that puts some skepticism into a speech about unity this week. I wonder whether or not you think it's possible that former Vice President Pence will change his stance regarding support for President Trump.
Well, Carl, I appreciate it. I don't want to speak for the former vice president. I do think that Donald Trump has shown the ability to change his narrative. And I think even in 2016, the night of election night, he had a very strongly written speech that was continuing much of the narrative of lock her up. And he said, I think it's time to bring the nation together. And I think that if you look back to his victory speech that night, it was much of a unity speech. It didn't last long, Carl. And so I think one of the question is, I think that he will give a speech that implores the nation to come together. And I pray and hope that that's the tenor that we keep. But I think there's a question of how long will it last.
And he is making a point there. When Trump got inaugurated, he made a speech at the first official dinner at the White House where he kind of said, hey, the campaign was the campaign. Hillary Clinton and me, we're good friends now. He asked Clinton to stand up. Everyone clapped for her. And so he kind of moved on. I think what would be very presidential whenever he does his RNC speeches, if he has that same tone of just like, hey, this happened. It sucks, but we're not going to reciprocate with violence towards the other side. We're going to move on. And thankfully, I was able to not get fatally hurt. I think he will have some fun and make some jokes about this over time, which is probably going to increase his likability. But overall, if he calls for peace, I think that's going to be very important. Here's another video I want to share with everybody. This is from a GoPro of a Washington Post reporter who was trying to take pictures of everything that happened at the moment. And it's pretty incredible to see how this plays out as soon as the shots were fired. So this is right at 6:13. That's where Trump takes cover. Secret Service gets on top of him. And that's when Trump stands up and he starts telling the crowd that, to keep fighting. And these are where the most epic pictures in American history are. I mean, these pictures are just insane. And so at that moment, Trump knew it was important to tell people he was strong. Look at that picture right there. I mean, those go down to the history books. And he took advantage of the moment. He realized he wasn't dead. He realized he was still conscious. It was just a little squibble on his ear. So he decided to take advantage of that. And I think that's, objectively, it's a sign of strength that a lot, like whether you're left or right, you can't ignore. It just looked like he knew that he needed to make a statement at that time, even if it was through a fist pump. And that would compel the nation to believe that he was Imagine if he was just rushed off stage and no one saw him kind of like, wave his hand or anything. People would think he actually got shot. People would think he's dead. Like he showed everyone, nope, I'm good and I'm all right. And so I think that was important for the American people to see, and it obviously made Trump look very strong in that moment as well. Teddy Roosevelt gave a speech after being shot. That is correct. And the reason they never took the bullet out of him is because during that time, the technology wasn't there where they could take a bullet out and think you would live. And so the previous president actually died before Teddy Roosevelt because they took a bullet out of his chest. So he stayed with the bullet his whole life. And he joked when people asked, how does it feel to have a bullet in your chest? He says, it doesn't feel any different than having the bullet in my pocket. So that guy was another warrior. He ended up losing the presidency after he took that bullet. But American assassination attempts, obviously, we saw with Abraham Lincoln and JFK. I mean, we've had this stuff happen in our history. It's happened. I think you can count on your finger. I think it's happened 5 or 6 times, right? But for it to happen in the modern age we're living in, and for it to be millimeters away from it being a full assassination, I think it was a wake-up call to every American yesterday. It was absolutely a wake-up call to every American. Why is Soundhound down? How much is Soundhound down? Soundhound's down 5%. So there's no reason other than it pumped 40% last week. I don't know why it pumped either. So makes sense that it's taking a breather today. But no reason it's down. And there was really no reason it was up last week either. 9 attempts have occurred in the history of U.S. presidencies. So someone says Trump's not going to rally outside anymore. I kind of think he will. I think he will rally because he's not going to want to seem weak, Pounter 2916. But the question's going to be how much security is there? Because I think if he admits he's not going to rally, even though if I was him, I would be having some PTSD and I would not want to be anywhere, with open range. Like I would probably not be strong enough to do that. I think Trump wants to give the image of strength. However, the security is going to have to be, up 10x. I mean, it's like, especially because an investigation hasn't happened yet into how this dude had clear aim at the president of the United States. It's just like, it's unbelievable. So from that perspective, I do think that we're going to have to see a little bit more security, but we're also going to have to see if Biden wants to do rallies outside as well, because maybe Biden starts getting scared that something could happen to him. Here's a former member of the Secret Service kind of talking about how this happened and why he thinks this was just insane.
I'm getting from a number of sources that people are feeding to me their information, obviously, because they want to fix it. They're concerned, and I think you're going to see a lot of whistleblowers. I'm hearing there were very, very few. I don't want to give an exact number, but very few actual, I don't think anyone else has reported this, actual Secret Service poststanders at that site. That they were temp HSI, right. Homeland Security folks, they're great folks. I'm not knocking them, but that's not what they do specifically. We do protection and we're trained for that. So I'm hearing that. I'm also hearing that the counter sniper team, that they had a problem seeing over the elevation. That's why I didn't engage right away.
Oh, come on.
But that's not the problem. The problem, well, it's the problem, but that's not the real. The problem is, where the hell was the aerial visual support? Why was there no helicopter? Why was there no drone? Why was there no FLIR? Why was there no thermal? Forward-looking infrared. How the hell is the crowd acting as the freaking counter surveillance operation?
I know, if that's the best asset you have is random Trump supporters telling police that there's a guy with a gun, what technology are they deploying? They're bragging about they have all this new technology. I didn't see it.
Here's another video that I thought was important, and we'll end on this, but this was the actual first-person view of this whole happening. And it was really interesting. This is a video that kind of gives a context of how this whole thing played out. So this is a bird's eye view, and then we'll end it right there. Pounter 2907, Robin at 2378, Tesla 262, and S&P at 563.83.
He was doing his job. I wouldn't even be doing this. It's a beautiful place with the gorgeous ocean.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there. See him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
So people saw the shooter, right? They saw him. And then the Secret Service guy is asking, like, how the hell are people seeing him? But the Secret Service can't find that guy is in plain sight on a building getting ready to take aim.
What's happening?
and to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look,
And it's
there he
not
is.
easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. And it's much tougher than if it happened. We have the strongest border ever. In recorded history, we had the best border. In fact, if they could ever put up a chart, I don't know if they can do it. Do you guys have access to that chart that I love so much? You don't mind if I go off teleprompter, do you? Because these teleprompters are so damn boring. I try and explain that. Oh, there's it. Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right? So that's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that says,
I'm going to rewind that, but you can see from 6 different angles right before the shots happened that people are recording this kind of whole playing out from the rooftop.
probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that says,
I hope he's turning this way. Be careful, guys.
We got breaking news. Coming in. Shots fired. Seems to be shots fired at the Trump rally.
By that, so this right here on the right-hand side of the screen, someone had been shot right there. They caught a stray bullet. And so these people are trying to like tell people, hey, he got shot in the head. We need a doctor. And so you could see from how people are recording, they saw the guy climb up on the rooftop. They saw him take the shot. They called out for the police. And then the shots ended up getting fired.
We need to go live right now. We are live right now at the Trump rally. We don't know if President Trump has been shot. We know he hit the ground. We do not know if President Trump has been shot. He's up. He's up. Shots are still continuing to be fired. He's giving a thumbs up, everybody. He's giving a thumbs up.
See that moment right there. As an American, even I am just like, damn it. Like, that's just one of those moments. And it's like, it was so important for him to say, hey, violence will not stop us. And thankfully, he didn't take a headshot. So he was able to be conscious enough to realize this is a moment that I need to stand strong. And I think that moment is the defining moment of the election. And personally, I think, I tweeted this over the weekend, I think he won the election based on this happening and this playing out. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but I think this is what's going to give him the catapult he needs. It was pretty crazy, man. But the point is, we could see that people knew that there was a guy with a gun. Now, the thing is, look, if this happened to Biden as well, my tone would be unequivocally the same. I mean, if someone tried to take a headshot against Joe Biden and that's how you were going to resolve your fears of Biden being president again, it would be the same feeling. And I think at some point the country realizes that's not how we resolve things. And you're going to have some crazy people on the far right saying it's good that Joe Biden died. You're going to have some crazy people on the far left say it's good that Trump got shot. Like there's always going to be those extremes, but I think a majority of reasonable people would believe, SoFi right here, 737, that no one should eliminate Palantir right below 29, each other's candidate through violence, just because they disagree with them. And yeah, I'll share the link in the chat. This is the video. So it's just the thing is, it happened to Trump, and the way it happened and the way he portrayed himself and the sort of the image of strength, it is something that I think a lot of people, oh, I sent you the wrong thing. Let me send the wrong. It is something a lot of people are going to get excited for. And so I guess we'll see, how it plays out. But if something like this had happened to Biden, I would imagine the entire country also comes together, because no one wants to see someone try to get shot and killed. Like, that's just not how we play in this country. That's the link right there. Delivers Palantir share price mid-sentence. I have to, dude. We fell below 29. I got to give an update. It was crazy, dude. The whole weekend. I mean, I was just attached to the news. I could not believe. I was going to go live when it was breaking at night on Saturday, but I kind of wanted to ingest the information a little bit more and get everything and understand it versus going live. Because I thought about going live, but I was just like, I kind of want to understand this stuff first before just constantly, spewing the information. So it was a lot this weekend to take in, but thankfully he's okay. And as you can see with the markets right now, it's not just pricing in that he potentially might be the president. It's also pricing in that he didn't die. Because by the way, if Joe Biden died as well, I don't think that if he got assassinated, the markets would have went up because, oh, now Trump's definitely going to win. It's like, sure, there would be an argument there, but the other argument is the instability of a country when a political candidate is assassinated. It would be devastating for the markets, Biden or Trump. So really important that did not happen. Palantir back above 29. It's steadily holding 29. It's falling to the low 28s and then it rebounds. I think as long as the market keeps itself up at 564, 563.5 on the S&P, maybe we keep Palantir. A close above 29 for the first time since September 2021 would be very special. And now a dip to 27 would be it would be funny, right? If we dip to 27, like a 10% dip to 27 would be hilarious, dude. Like it would be like 27's the dip. And it's like 27 a month ago looked like impossible, or it just looked like this level that was like the old time, the 52-week high. But it's going higher. At least for now, it's maintaining this momentum. SoFi, a great day on SoFi as well. SoFi right here, 738 up 5.8%. It hit 743. So SoFi seeing the momentum. MicroStrategy's up 13%. And then Robinhood couldn't break 24, but 23.50, I'll take it. Close above 23.5. That's totally fine with me. And then as they produce earnings, we should get closer to that $25 level on Robinhood. And then obviously Bitcoin going up, that helps as well, along with the broader market. All right, cool. That's it for me. Thank you everybody for being here. I'll be back on the market close at 3:45. We'll see what happens. Trump's VP should be announced today. We'll probably cover that live as it breaks, and we'll analyze that. And then we'll just see how the market holds up. It's going to be interesting. Really good day. Let's see how it plays out towards the end of the day, and then we'll keep going from there. Oh, word of the day. Correct, Angela. Thank you. Thank you for that, Angela. It's not turquoise. It's probably not turquoise. Nebulize.
Nebulize.
To become vague, indistinct, or nebulous. The details of the contract slowly nebulized in my mind, making it difficult. To the once clear skyline began to nebulize. Palantir below 20 is nebulizing to the broader market. And maybe it continues to nebulize in the 25, 26, 27, and 28 range. And we start getting further price discovery. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with Palantir. All right, cool. That's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And we'll be back at 3:45 p.m. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.